Pursuant to the general provisionals, Article 3-305 and 3-104, the Board of Education of Queen Anne's County met in closed session to discuss various topics related to the governance of this body.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes from the closed and open session in January?
Make a motion, we approve the closed session minutes for January the 3rd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Make a motion, we approve the January 3rd open session minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Salins.
Yes,
All the best parts.
as you can see, we're very safe this evening because we have all of our school resource officers here tonight, and I just want to say a couple of words about them and recognize each one of them. Test. So good evening, everyone, and we would like to take this opportunity to recognize our school resource officers. We have a very, very good partnership with the Sheriff's Department, and I give him total kudos. Our sheriff is very, very supportive and works hand in hand with his team, with our school safety representative, Mr. Joe Sabori. I can't thank each one of you enough for your commitment to our students, to our staff, your diligence every day, the connections that you make with our students. You make them feel comfortable. I know many of them come in every day and greet you in the school. And so your presence there is invaluable. We don't know how, this is a very small token of our appreciation for everything that you do every day. And I'm going to turn it over to Sid so he can introduce each person, and then we'll bring you up and do a recognition.
If I could have Mr. Sabori come up here, please. As Dr. Salins said, we have a very special group of SROs. As I call your name, please come up. Hang out here for a minute so we can take a picture of everybody together. I need freshly retired Captain Meal. I think Captain Meal's been retired for what, 7 days?
Something like that, yeah.
Your beard looks good. I didn't quite notice you there. First Sergeant John Myers.
Thank you.
Sergeant George Sewell.
Thank you.
Corporal George Parker. DFC Alex Cooper. DFC Joe Patakowski. DFC Matt Johnston. DFC Johnston is the pickleball king at Queen Anne's County High School. DFC Tyler Augerbright. DFC Karim Serrier. And the other two are not present tonight, DFC James McAdams and DFC Chad Schroyer. Just a couple quick comments, but as I was saying, on Sundays, DFC Johnston comes to where he lives all the way up here to play pickleball with the high school students. They all have different interactions with the community, after-school events, weekend events. It's not just, a job where they're coming here from 7:30 till 3:30 in the afternoon. They're very involved. I can tell you my own two daughters can, go through who they've had the whole entire time and still say hi to them and, look up to them. But thank you for your service, and thank you for coming out of retirement for just a night, Lieutenant or Captain. Want to take a quick picture?
Yeah, it's a quick picture. If we can try to kind of pile in over here,
Around a table or back here?
around the table, or someone maybe in here. If several of you could come in here.
You can get a couple of you guys want to pop on the left-hand side too, feel free.
Bring it down here.
Yeah.
The muskrat.
You can come down here if you want.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, who's first? Okay. Everybody can look at me, please. Thank you.
Stay up here and invite up the next guest.
We have 7 schools tonight that were awarded the Energy Star Certificate, which is pretty prestigious award for energy conservation. And I would like for Mr. Mark Amadio, come on up. He is our energy specialist. I always butcher his last name, by the way. And Mary Ellen Leader from Synergistics.
Thank you. Thanks so much. So January of 2023, we formed a partnership with Queen Anne County Public Schools to operate more efficiently in your school buildings while making sure that the learning environment was protected. And in that time, so just over a year, the school district has recognized or realized over 11% of energy reduction. That equates to about 2.2 million miles of car, mileage taken off the road, and about 14,500 trees planted. So the environmental impact of your efforts has been substantial, and we're just in year 1. So we're confident that we're going to see continued growth, really amazing results as we go along. And, it's the future of our planet, so it's very important. The Environmental Protection Agency awards Energy Star rating to buildings who are in the top 25%. So 7 of your schools have qualified, and that's a great achievement. And nothing makes us happier than to come and deliver this kind of recognition. So these buildings are operating efficiently, again, with the healthy building model in mind. So it's very important for the learning environment, for the students and the educators who are in the buildings, and everybody is involved in the effort. So we're thrilled to have recognition for 7 of the schools. Mark, I'll let you announce the schools.
So we'll start with, I saw Principal Harding here from Kent Island High School. If you'd like to come up. If you guys want to just stay up here then, that way you can get a picture at the end with everybody with their awards. Your actual certificate got ruined in the rainstorms. We're going to handle it today. So we're going to handle it. I think I saw Vice Principal Kovach here for Mattapique Middle School. Oh, is Principal Chambers here too? Perfect.
That's okay. That's all right. Thank you so much.
Principal Schreckengost for Stevensville Middle School. Principal Canna for Centerville Middle School. Vice Principal Burbridge for Sothersville Middle School.
Oh my goodness.
Two hands for it.
Principal Tubman for Graysonville Elementary School. And Principal Cornish for Kent Island Elementary School. Congratulations, everybody. Well done.
I think you're gonna have to come a little bit. Aileen, you're really hiding back there. Get up on the window. There you go. Okay, everybody look at me. Mr. Smith, you need to get 3 inches taller. Okay, now, all right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
So we have several other awards this evening, and we're going to start with our Energizer Bunny Award. This award is given to a staff member or volunteer who keeps on going. It is sponsored by the Bayview Financial, which is Mr. Chip Brittingham and Mr. Wayne Humphreys, if they could please come forward. Again, we have several Energizer Bunny Awards this evening. The first award has been nominated by Principal Dan Harding from Kent Island High School. If he'll please come forward. And the first Energizer Bunny Award goes to Suzanne Dye. If she could please come forward. Mr. Harding has some wonderful things to say about you. Mrs. Dye is a paraeducator at Kent Island High School. Ms. Dye is everywhere. She helps out when needed. She is willing and eager to do anything from working with students one-on-one or in small groups to monitoring our hallways and girls' bathrooms. There is nothing Ms. Dye won't do to make Kent Island High School great. Earlier this year, Ms. Dye, along with our daytime custodian, noticed a student that was walking off campus at the very beginning of the school day. Determined to get to the bottom of what was going on, she followed the student and contacted the administration to ensure the student's safety. This dedication and energy is what Ms. Dye brings to Kent Island High School every single day. Thank you. Congratulations.
See Mr. Smith at all? There we go. Sorry. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Harding has also nominated the second Energizer Bunny for February, which is Karen Henson. If she'll please come forward. Mr. Harding says that Karen's professional experience in the military and in the classroom has quickly made her an invaluable resource here at Kent Island High School. Within her first year at Kent Island High School as the career coach, she immediately became the freshman class advisor and the organizer of the largest career college and military fair we have seen. Karen monitors work-based learning, coordinates the ASVAB testing for all of our sophomores as a career exploration tool, provides field trips, guest speakers, and collaboratively with Queen Anne's County High School, brought the Department of Motor Vehicle in to offer the learner's permit to our eligible students. She meets individually with students who are doing work-based learning, as well as meets with students who have not yet identified their post-secondary goals. Karen has gone above and beyond in coordinating meaningful and impactful internships and work-based learning opportunities to include students working in the fields of physical therapy, marine service engineering, sales and marketing, hospitality, cosmetology, and many more. As recent as last week, she provided staff professional development to support students' college and career exploration. Karen Henson is a product of Queen Anne's County Public Schools, and more specifically, a graduate of Kent Island High School. Thank you for all you've done.
Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
The final Energizer Bunny this evening was nominated by Dr. Billy Bryce. If she'll please come forward, the academic dean at Queen Anne's County High School. And the February Energizer Bunny number 3 is Betsy Ricketts. Dr. Bryce says that Betsy is unstoppable. Within her first year at Queen Anne's County High School as the career coach, she immediately became the freshman class advisor, the family and community engagement co-coordinator, and employee of the month. Just this semester, she monitors over 190 students for work-based learning, organized over 12 field trips for the middle and high schools, brought in dozens of guest speakers, and now organized the DMV to offer the learner's permit to our high schoolers. Her staff members wrote that Betsy has jumped into her role wholeheartedly and, in my opinion, has surpassed the expectations for this new position and gone above and beyond to help students individually. She has met individually with students who are already doing work-based learning, as well as met proactively with students who may need hope and reassurance just to get to the point of pursuing a career. She is an efficient problem solver and does it with such kindness and genuine regard for others. She makes everyone feel welcome and has already been a safe space for several students. So thank you for everything you've done. The next award is the Spirit Award. This award is given to an individual who embodies the spirit of Queen Anne's County Public Schools. We have 2 winners this evening. The first Spirit Award has been nominated by Dan Harding, principal at Kent Island High School. If he'll please come forward. And the first Spirit Award winner is Brittany Black. If she'll please come forward. Mr. Harding says Ms. Black embodies the spirit of Queen Anne's County Public School. As a graduate of Queen Anne's County High School, she left Queen Anne's County to pursue her teaching career outside of the state of Maryland. Returning this past summer to teaching with Queen Anne's County Public Schools, Ms. Black is a wonderful addition to our team. She's a great classroom teacher, an advocate for her students, a trusted adult to many of our students, and has gone above and beyond as the JV basketball coach, all in this first year at Kent Island High School. So thank you so much. The second Spirit Award has been nominated by Dr. Billy Bryce, Academic Dean for Queen Anne's County High School, if she would please come forward. And the second Spirit Award goes to Quandre Wilson. Dr. Bryce says that Coach Dre dedicates his time 7 days a week to organizing an array of clubs and sporting events. He practically lives at Queen Anne's County High School. He seamlessly embodies the roles of an exceptional athletic director, a guided mentor, a class advisor, and an inspiring teacher. He also took on the challenge of helping our middle school PFY program get started. And thank you for that. It's big. He's even started our first ever pickleball club that competed with schools across the bridge. He has Queen Anne's County High School Lion Spirit, and we are so proud to have him at Queen Anne's. So, congratulations. Okay, our next set of awards are our Shining Star Awards, and we do have many this evening. The first February Shining Stars are Queen Anne's County Public Schools, all state dancers, singers, and our National Art Award winners. And they're nominated by Mr. Michael Bell, our Supervisor of Visual and Performing Arts, if he would please come forward. So just a little background information. Any student earning the ranking of being selected all-state is the equivalent of making it to the big leagues for our performing artists. And this year, we have had a record number of dancers and singers earning the designation of all-state. We also just learned of our district's first ever NAEA National Rising Star Award presented to a select group of the best artists in National Art Society chapters across the entire nation. We want to further recognize that these students' incredible achievements by acknowledging them as February Shining Stars, along with their outstanding dance, chorus, and visual art teachers. So the first category, Queen Anne's County Public School All-State Earners of the 2024 in Dance. And I'd like to invite up Kylie Blavos from Ken Island High School, junior. Nadia Wilde, Ken Island High School sophomore. And their teacher, dance teacher, Amber Wright, also a former 2020 Queen Anne's County Public School Teacher of the Year. And if you'll please remain up here. The next category is Queen Anne's County Public Schools All-State Earners for 2024 in Junior and Senior Chorus. Juniper Parks, Mattapique Middle School. And her teacher, Sarah Burrell. And I'll do my very best with pronunciation on this next one, so I may apologize right up front. But is it Tamade Famoyima? Not close. I'm sure I'm not close. If you'll please come forward, though, and help me pronounce your name. Tell me how you pronounce your name.
Tamade Famuyiwa.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you. Both of those students are from Stevensville Middle School, and their teacher, Cassidy Bowman, please. Oh, sorry. Sorry. If Sarah Cannon will please come forward. Also from, that was a, and their teacher. And from Ken Island High School, we have Alexa Gulbraith? No. How do you pronounce it?
Galbraith.
Galbraith. Thank you. Congratulations. Juliana Grill. Ileana Ronelli. Congratulations. And teacher Rihanna Sherman. And lastly, we have our NAEA 2024 National Rising Star Award winner, which is Rain Dietrichs from Ken Island High School. And her teacher, Andrea Schulte, also the 2023 Maryland Art Educator Association Secondary Art Educator of the Year and Queen Anne's County Public Schools Teacher of the Year.
I think this is everybody.
I think so. I hope so. Because the next one's with Mr. Harding again.
So maybe I could get, can you guys come up here?
There's a couple spots in the back. Yeah.
I just probably need like a couple more on this side, if that's okay. Thank you. That's perfect. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, if everybody could look at me. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Congratulations.
Sure. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Okay, where am I? Our next Shining Star has been nominated by Mr. Dan Harding, principal at Kent Island High School. If you'll please come forward. And our second February Shining Star is Sherry Valenti. Mrs. Valenti, who is also a product of Queen Anne's County Public School System. Mrs. Valenti is a standout teacher for focusing on each one of her students. As a teacher who is tasked with heading up our Teacher Academy program, thank you, Mrs. Valenti has taken the Teacher Academy program to new heights, and most importantly, she is an inspiration for our students at Kent Island High School to choose to become an educator for their career. There is no better person to be the face of the driving force for our future educators within Queen Anne's County Public Schools. So thank you for really just creating an environment where people just like yourself will come back here and teach proudly in Queen Anne's County.
One of my students is here. Kylie.
Oh, yay. Oh, hey, Kylie. Okay. So our final Shining Star Award has been nominated by Dr. Billy Bryce, Academic Dean at Queen Anne's County High School. She'll please come forward. And you may have to help me with this last name as well. So our Shining Star is Carla
Altamirano.
Thank you. Yeah. Everybody needs a little help sometimes, right? Carla is our Access and Opportunity Coordinator at Queen Anne's County High School and is invaluable to our school and community. Carla makes relationships with our students and family members to ensure clear success at Queen Anne's County High School. She leads our family and our community engagement committee and organizes several events to provide opportunities for our students and families. We are thankful for Carla and how she cultivates meaningful relationships among our families so that they feel welcomed and supported. So thank you.
There we go. Okay, do it again. One.
Yeah, one more round of applause because we did have a lot of recognitions and a lot of amazing things going on. So thank you to those that nominated and thank you for those who are receiving awards for everything that you do.
I turned the extra deal. Ask them to turn the air on.
Right, get them all out of here.
Where's the meat? Oh my God.
Holy moly.
I know.
Say hi to the great man. You're doing fantastic.
Give them another minute to clear the room. That was awesome. All right. Maybe another few seconds here, everybody. Comfortable. Oh, that was nice. Thank you. Always the facilities. Always the COO there, FOO. Still here. Okay. That's always one of the best parts of the meetings, all these wonderful recognitions. Okay, board involvement. Who would like to start? Anybody have anything to say? Yes.
Well, I'd just like to say, one of the things we do have different programs, but it's Everside Health Plan for nothing but good things. I've talked to some retired employees, our current employees, both county and board, and that seems to be something from what I'm hearing has been very positive. I've heard nothing negative. They can get there, get in and out. It has a little pharmacy there, and I'm happy that, along with partnership with the county, this got done for our employees.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. If I had something, I can't remember. So.
Well, if you think about it before we're done, right?
I'm on the legislative committee, so I get to meet with our MABE officers twice a month. And so we have been focusing on the blueprint and what it means for our county and what adjustments we'll need to make and what things MABE is pushing back on our behalf. So there's some really good information there. I will make sure I share with the rest of the board.
Okay, just to piggyback with what Mr. Smith was saying, was that the Everside, the comptroller came to visit because it's such an impressive program and we're the first in the state and there's all these other ones waiting to go, but she was very impressed with it. I mean, so much that they made this really big presentation and came out and did this little social media posts and stuff. It's really quite amazing, the things we're hearing about Everside. But I also just wanted to say, as you can see, wow, Queens County kids, young people,
Awesome.
are just rocking everywhere, getting all these awards for everywhere. And, the teachers who are rising them up to that level, that's pretty amazing. So, yeah, congratulations. There's too many to name. We tried.
Difficult task, right?
All right, Ms. Forte, you are on.
Okay, so this week we had our scheduling week for the 2024 to 2025 academic school year, and students and counselors have been setting up their schedules for next year. On February 7th through 9th, the PBIS will be selling carnations during lunch shifts. It's a fundraiser for Valentine's Day, and students and staff can purchase carnations for their friends. On the 14th, will be the in-school learners permit testing day. Students can now take their learners permit test at the high school, and another testing day is being looked at for March. Jostens will have a table, on February 20th, Jostens will have a table set up during our lunch shifts for 10th graders to place class ring orders, and for any seniors who haven't placed their cap and gown orders yet, they can do that on February 20th. On February 21st, we'll be having free sports physicals at our school at 2:30 p.m. and spring sports orientations at 5:30 p.m. On February 22nd, for anyone who is interested in traveling to Ireland, Scotland, and England, there will be an interest meeting at 5:30 p.m. in the cafeteria. And on February 23rd, our quarter 3 interim reports will be sent home electronically. And by the end of the month, we'll be halfway through the third marking period. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Wow, it's hard to believe. I know. Okay, Dr. Kibler, I guess you're trying to fill Mr. Sandifer's shoes here.
Couple years down to high school. So I think he wanted to let everybody know tonight that he's preparing for his wrestling regional dual match. So that's why I couldn't be here. So hard at work tonight. But so I'll just read sort of verbatim what he said. January was a very busy month for us at Kent Island High School as we wrapped up the first semester and started the second. We participated in the Cool Schools Polar Bear Plunge and raised thousands of dollars for the Special Olympics of Maryland. We had multiple students named to the All-Shore Band, Chorus, and Dance teams. Last Friday, almost our entire 10th grade class visited Chesapeake College to check out what they had to offer in dual enrollment, post-secondary college offerings, and trade skills. Also last Friday, semester 1 report cards were sent home, and we are also excited to have spring sports registration now open for any interested students.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Dr. Salins.
Yes, so I'm going to veer off what I normally do this time because I'd like to take an opportunity to recognize actually the board. So last month, after our board meeting, so that's why I'm doing it now, they designated Maryland School Board Recognition Month. And so I'd like to read a proclamation from our governor that says, Maryland School Board Recognition Month, January 2024. Whereas the Maryland Associations of Boards of Education is a private, nonprofit organization dedicated to serving and supporting boards of education in Maryland. And whereas Maryland students greatly benefit from the state's school boards providing access to essential academic, social, emotional, and economic supports. And whereas our state is grateful to all of the Maryland's school boards that work to ensure the rigorous and world-class educational experience for every Maryland student. Now, therefore, I, Wes Moore, Governor of the State of Maryland, do hereby proclaim January 2024 as Maryland School Board Recognition Month. In addition to that, we have a certificate that we also received after our last board meeting of recognition, and this certificate is proudly presented to the Queen Anne's County Board of Education for dedicated leadership in Queen Anne's County and committed service to the schools and students of Queen Anne's County Public Schools. Your hard work, dedication, and achievement is applauded, and this is signed by the President of the Maryland State Board of Education, which is Clarence Crawford, and Mr. Milton Nagel, Executive Director of the Maryland Associations of Boards of Education. And I would just like to extend out to the board how thankful I am to have the opportunity to serve under your leadership. You're very supportive and you make good decisions for kids, and that's what's important to me. So thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. Pleasure serving. Okay, it is public comment time. Do we have anyone speaking?
We do. And we ask that all speakers to keep in mind the following guidelines. Speakers should sign the roster, including their telephone numbers and address. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes in length. Comments longer than 3 minutes should be submitted in writing. Statements to the board should relate to a matter of general policy over which this board has authority. Comments about actions or statements of individual staff members are not appropriate for public comments and should be referred to the superintendent of schools or the board president. If you have specific questions, the board will make sure an appropriate staff member responds to your question. The board respects your desire and right to convey your message freely, but ask as a courtesy to this board and our citizens that you show respect for all. First on the list, Mr. Richard McNeil.
Good evening, Richard McNeil, and live in Centerville and represent the retired educators group. Actually, it's a retired school personnel group. I have to remember that and so forth. And I have to tell you, when I came tonight and there was 12 deputy sheriffs out front, I was a little concerned, but it's good. I'd like to pick up what Mr. Smith said about the healthcare. Our retirement group, and we have communicated about that, and it has nothing been positive. I mean, it's just there. And I think Centerville and Queen Anne's County has looked for that for a long time. And along the same lines, I'd like to just say, if you haven't been to the YMCA building out there, it is wonderful. And, you know, it just makes me feel good to see the community using it. It's busy all the time, and not only for the adults, but also for the youth of the county. It is just wonderful. I'd like to report that in December, our goal was to get 102 pairs of gloves to get out. We collected just under 400.
Wow.
And each of those were given a pencil and a candy cane tied with a ribbon, and they were distributed to our pre-K throughout the whole county. So everybody in pre-K should have gotten a pair of gloves and a pencil and so forth. So our retirement group came through. Like to tonight just recognize the Gale folks, the teachers and the support staff that are going to be looked at and so forth on that. I know that's coming up. And I'd like to encourage everybody who's listening out in the world of television to support our students at both schools for the play that's coming up in March. I know Queen Anne starts on March 2nd. I think Kent Island starts the next week, but I'm not sure of the date. So, you know, We don't have any movies in the county, and this is sort of cheap entertainment, but it's good entertainment. It's very good entertainment, and, you know, to see the talent of the young folks, a lot of them were recognized tonight, but just come out and see that. We like to, is everybody getting our newsletter? If you're not and you want it, please let me know through, yes.
Ms. Dennis.
Yeah, thank you. Because we do like to keep you informed of what's going on and from our perspective and so forth. And we do have lots of fun. And just again, I know the budgets are tight, but we appreciate your support of our healthcare package. And we are one of the best in the state for that. And I can tell you, we appreciate that so much. Also, I'd like to point out, we have 6 members who have retired from Queen Anne's County Schools who are over 90 years old. And 4 of those members come to all of our luncheons and meetings. So I'm not going to give you the names, but and as I approach 90, I'm going to remember that too. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is that said? Are you wondering?
Give you some extra time.
That was it.
Okay. Did anyone else want to speak that hasn't? Okay. All right. Mr. Tolley, we're going to hear the CT program update. Which is an exciting topic, I think, for most of us. It is, yes.
Jump right in the middle.
Yeah, thanks.
Very good. Good evening, President Bennett, Superintendent Salins, members of the board, executive team. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to, as I always say, to talk about CTE. And although we could probably go all night, we know there's a packed agenda, so we're going to really shorten it up. But I would like to reintroduce our wonderful career coaches tonight, Ms. Betsy Ricketts, career coach at Queen Anne's County High School, and Ms. Karen Hessen, career coach at Kent Island High School. So just wanted to come before the board just to talk briefly about the career coaches and what they have done since they started in August, and about the program in general, how they came to be. So I'm gonna start off and just go over some basic information, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Karen and Betsy and let them, like I said, they sincerely could fill this entire night with everything they've done in 6 months, but we're gonna hit a couple of highlights, and we'll come back at another date and give a wrap up. So the vision for Career Center and Career Coaches started years ago. It was our vision to really put that into the schools so the students knew, you know, a place where they could go to talk about careers, internships, apprenticeships, summer work, permanent work. And so this was even before Blueprint was even a thing. You know, we had this vision, and we worked with very closely, and I always talk about our partnerships, and very thankful for the partnership that we have with Queen Anne's County Economic Development through with Heather Tonelli and Ms. Connie Dean. And we started working, and we were able to secure a grant through the Upper Shore Regional Council, which opened the door for the career centers and the career coaches. So we're very thankful to them and our partnerships with the Queen Anne's County Commissioners as well. So fast forward through that grant, the grant came to fruition. We advertised the positions, and Karen and Betsy started with us in late August and have not looked back since. And we have really done some wonderful things. They have done some wonderful things, and they won't say, and because they're very humble, but I will say that they, their efforts are, we're leaders on the shore, in my opinion, with what we're doing, and what, you know, what they've done with kids so far just has been wonderful. So, you know, I won't talk too much. I do want to turn it over to them so they can just kind of highlight what they've done, and if you all have questions, that's our purpose for being here tonight. So I will turn it over.
Well, I'll start. So Betsy and I kind of weren't prepared for what was written up about us, and it kind of told you a lot of what we've done. I think one of the big things we try to front with is, if you hear Betsy did it, then I did it, and if you hear I did it, Betsy did it. We're a package deal. Both high schools get the exact same support, and we do that with a lot of purpose, so that everybody's getting the same opportunities. But we'll start with our events then, and go from there. So Sure.
So a little bit about the events that we've already done. You guys are aware, we did the National Apprenticeship Week. That was a great success. All 5 days were filled with guest speakers. Like they said earlier, that was like the largest military presence at the school. It was Military Law Enforcement Day. We had a trades day. We had a county support day. It was lots of fun things. And Pamela Clay came one of those days to both high schools. It was great.
Yeah. On the day she came to Ken Island, some of our apprentices were awarded their certificate because they completed their program. So that was very cool to have her there when they were being awarded that.
And she's from Pam's with MSDE, so yes.
So Karen and I are actively trying to build the Midshore Career Coaches cohort. So we have a monthly meeting at Chesapeake College. And since then, Karen and I have created a Facebook page where we can all stay in touch. And we're
trying to set up a meeting with UMES for higher education for all the coaches on the shore. So if we do it together, they'll cut us a break on some of the things. And then also getting them in touch with the National Guard, because the National Guard's trying to become an apprentice for the entire Eastern Shore. So somehow Betsy and I became the ringleaders for that one by accident.
And we are also doing the learner's permit. We're having one currently in February at both high schools. Ours is on the 14th, Ken Island's is on the 28th. We had so much, permission slips come in from parents that we actually had to increase the number of students that were able to take the test. And then because of it, we're actually going to try and schedule another one in March or April because of that. So
for field trips, just quickly, we try to connect the careers through field trips. Ken Island's report was talking about the Chesapeake field trip. Queen Anne's goes at the end of the month, and we're taking all 10th grade students to go out. They're meeting with local business leaders and seeing the opportunities at Chesapeake. But it's not just what's at Chesapeake, it's what you could do outside of the county if these students wanted to go to a D1 or a bigger university outside of the county. So, and it was a major success. The kids loved it on day one for Ken Island.
So in addition to all that, we're doing some work in the classrooms. So we work with a lot of students on resume writing, cover letter. We're introducing them to LinkedIn this semester for all of our work-based learning students. We're doing interview prep. So students can actually reach out to us and let us know that they have an interview coming up, and we'll kind of take them and do a one-on-one. And same with all of our work-based learning students, and pretty much any student of every grade, they can come to us for interview prep.
We'll quickly jump to middle school, and so the middle school career coaches don't exist yet. They hopefully will exist soon. So for the middle schools, we have 7th and 8th grade both doing something with junior achievement this year. The 7th graders are going to go to Finance Park, and the 8th graders are going to return to Inspire, which they did last year. Along with Inspire, we're partnering with the middle schools to get all 4 middle schools to do a career day. So not a fair, but more of a day. So educating on pathways, not necessarily looking for a job. And then with the Finance Park, all 4 middle schools are working through and completing the lesson plans that go with that, and their field trips are set, and they're looking forward to it.
So in addition, we're also doing Ag Day. That is for all 7th graders. That is going to be in April over 2 days. So we are going to add a 5th station this year, and it's going to be for career awareness.
And I think the rest of these got covered earlier, so the last thing so Betsy and I took on an extra hat this year. We are now the military liaisons for both high schools, and we applied for a Purple Star designation with MSD. So we are hoping to hear back before the end of the year. Because of that, we got in touch with an individual who's helping us put on, at the end of the month, a showcase for military-connected students, so students that are either attached to the military or would like to go into an academy, and having an info session for them on how to properly apply to an academy. And he's got a really good success rate of getting students placed, so we're excited to meet with him.
Exciting, that's a lot.
And that's seriously, that's just a little bit of what they have done. And, and sometimes I have to be like super careful, because I will throw just an idea out at the MBA testing, and they had it organized and set before, I was like, yep, that's great. So they are wonderful, doing wonderful things, and we are just looking forward to what the future has in store. So
just one comment, one question. The comment was, I had a parent came to me the other day and was so excited. 2 kids in high school had gone to the career day, said they had no clue what they were doing, and now they know exactly what they would do when they You know, so that was, I mean, she was extremely excited for her kids, and so that was a nice kudos to y'all. But then the question, like, how is the partnership with Connie Dean? Like, how do you guys?
Amazing.
I mean, but like,
Daily.
what does it look like? Does she just help you plan your events, or do you guys give her, I mean, how does that, what does it look like?
So she is our connection with businesses. So a lot of the events that we have, she is the one that's like on the ground running. She's the one going into the businesses, talking to them, talking about all the opportunities that they have. She's the one that helps get companies approved for youth apprenticeships. She'll help them throughout the process of it. So
Even with JA, she got JA connected with a bunch of Queen Anne's County businesses, and we just did a leadership academy with some of our sophomores and juniors. And one of the local couples that went to that were there not only doing the networking, but one of them was actually leading one of the sessions. So that was all Connie Dean driven.
Well, it's very impressive. Thanks for all that you're doing. It's wonderful. I know it's a passion for most of us up here to expand our CTE program.
Aaron and I also want to thank Adam because he was.
Yeah, his support has
best leader,
definitely let us do what we do.
Yeah, I want to thank you because it's been a priority of this board to push CTE. I think it's a great opportunity for our kids. And amazing what we've done over the last 3 or 4 years. It looks like we keep moving forward with it. And opportunities that come up, it amazes me, and I hear nothing but good news about it. And it's a good thing for opportunities for our kids to get out in both our local business, because I think 60% of our people work outside of the county. It's nice to start seeing, and our businesses need help, and they need, we need to know what they need. And I think Addie done a great job on working that, and with Chesapeake College, to put what we need on the ground and give kids opportunities. But you can walk out of high school with certified in a lot of fields with a good pay, and you might need other education or other technical support, but it's amazing what's going on now.
Absolutely.
And I think we're one of the leaders. I know Frederick was pretty big out there, but it's a whole different county too.
It is. We thank the board for your support, and Dr. Salins, for her support, and, we just are, and again, that partnership, we meet with Connie, the four of us meet every Monday morning at 7:30 in my office, and we plan and get things going, and so we're just happy. And before we go, I will say that also February is National CTE Month, so if you see a CTE teacher, thank them for what they do. We have some amazing teachers. They're all great what they do, and like Mr. Smith said, what we're offering to the kids is amazing. So we're very, very proud, and I'm proud to be up here and proud to have the coaches on board with us. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, the first read for policy 106. Mr. Berklow, he knew he was up, okay.
Good evening, President Bennett, Vice President Bent, board members, Superintendent Salins, executive team. My name is Darryl Barraclough. I'm the school facility coordinator. Before you this evening is the first read for policy 106, naming or renaming of public schools and school facilities. This is the first read of the policy before being posted on the school district's website for public comment period, after which it will be brought back to the board for the second reading with any additional revisions as appropriate. The changes that we are suggesting are additions to cover naming or renaming of school facilities or portions of the facility. And the revisions are noted in, additions are in blue underlined with the deletions in red strike through. Any questions?
You have questions?
Nope.
No. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too. All right, first read, policy 250, is that?
Mr. Murdoch.
Okay, so it has Mr. Pin, okay, I'll change it.
Good evening, President Bennett, Dr. Salins, board members, and the executive team. For the record, I'm John Murdoch, Supervisor of Transportation. We're here for the first read of Policy 250, Department of Transportation Drug and Alcohol Policy. that addresses the alcohol testing of bus drivers and aligns with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's policy. And we haven't haven't updated 250 here since 2018. So we updated the drug and alcohol policy, and we're here for the first reading. So any questions, we can kind of go over some of the additions and things that have changed, but for the most part, it's just bringing everything up to snuff.
Bottom line is DOT compliance.
Yep, DOT compliant,
Yes,
yep.
yes. Any comments, questions for Mr. Murdoch?
And I guess all our drivers and everything get a copy of this and understand, they get to have a
Every new
CDL
employee,
license or something.
when you get hired, you get the copy of the DOT policy. And it's on the website. It's
Right.
available through the transportation's web piece of the website.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's not the policy, but thanks for what you do. That's a
thank you.
lot of work. Okay, Dr. Knoll.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Salins, members of the board and executive team. For the record, Michael Knoll, Director of Human Resources. I come before you tonight with two policies for first reads. The first is the policy and regulation of employee use of social media. This policy was last updated in 2017. And as you know, technology changes quite quickly, so we needed to revamp this policy, change some of our points of contact, as well as add some new formats of social media to protect our staff and students. Any questions?
I think it updates what's happening in this world of technology.
It's ever changing.
Any comments? All right, thank you.
I'm going to stay here for a second because I'm going to come back. I'm still the same person. But I bring before you tonight another update for Policy 411, Employment of Educational Staff. Believe it or not, this policy was last readopted in 1993. Things have changed a little bit since 1993, but the change in this policy basically brings the policy up to COMAR standards and kind of throws away the old policy and institutes the COMAR language as it is in statute. Do you have any questions about that?
All right. Nope. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Evans, chronic absenteeism presentation.
Yes, they look different, so. Mobile IT is here.
I was hoping you'd come up here.
Okay. Good evening, President Bennett, Dr. Salins, members of the board, members of the executive team. For the record, my name's Matt Evans, Supervisor of Student Services, and I'm here tonight to provide updates on chronic absenteeism in Queen Anne's County Public Schools. Really, the purpose, we want to make sure we understand what chronic absenteeism is. We'll look at attendance data, pre and post COVID-19, and then talk about the prevention strategies that we use as well as interventions that we perform. So a student is chronically absent after missing at least 10% of the days in the school year. So in the typical 180-day school year, the magic number is 18. I believe today is day 100, so any student who has missed 10 days thus far is chronically absent. We do monitor, well, let me go back, because it's also important to remember that chronic absenteeism includes all absences, whether you're sick, for whatever the case. If you're not in the building and marked absent, it counts towards that metric. So we monitor it in real time through PowerSchool in the sense that every school is able at any time to click on, just make one click, and they have a list of their chronically absent students as well. With another click, they can see who's at risk. So we're able to monitor it and intervene quickly. Here's the data.
I have one question right
Yes.
When you say chronically, if a student's out and we're giving them at-home instruction, how does that work?
So that's a good question. That would not count. So if a student's on home hospital instruction, HHT is considered a present code. as long as they are in fact meeting with their tutor as scheduled.
Got you. So that
So,
would
so a student that might be out for a month for an illness and is on home hospital is not counted as absent.
And I'm sorry, since we're talking about what's counted, what about a half day? I know that we count half days in school as a school day. Do we count?
So as per the state, if you are present for more than 50% of the day, you are present for the day.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. As you see the data here with the graph, and I'll start with 2018-19, we're at 13%, which was, really I look at our baseline data. 1920 is when we closed in March for COVID. That did not affect our attendance because everybody was marked present from then on throughout the state. So I believe it was like March 20th, but we went up to 15%. 2021 was when we were in virtual learning. We did have small groups in the building. We did bring in CTE groups. And towards the end of the year, we did invite students back, but they were not required to come in the building and they could still choose to do the virtual learning. I will note, to be counted present, even when everybody was virtual learning, all that was required was logging into Schoology. So it was not difficult. And if there were technology issues, parents could certainly call the school and say, look, we are doing our best, but my child, and that student would be counted present. So even with that simple process of being present, we went from 15% to 21% chronic absenteeism that year. 21-22 is when we invited all students back. Well, in fact, we said you have to come back unless you're in the blended virtual program, which was approximately 40 students, 50 at the most at that time. But other than that, you were expected to come in, and there was not virtual learning, where the teacher was not also had a camera that you could log into. And as you can see, that jump was 31%. And if you remember those years, those were, if you had COVID, you were required to stay home for 10 days. If you were a close contact to somebody with COVID, you were required to stay home for 10 days. So with that, as well as I think a kind of the shift in the perspective, and also the case that we're now telling students, if you're sick, don't come to school. Where kind of before it was, hey, if you don't feel great, get into school, tough it out. So that was our peak. Last school year, we were down to 27%. And again, we're away completely from the contact tracing. Even if they don't tell us that they don't have COVID and they come to school, they come to school. If they do tell us they have COVID, they stay home for 5 days. The concern we have is we're starting to see, as I mentioned earlier, that change in perspective, that mindset with families. And the idea was like, well, more parents are working from home. We don't see that much importance placed on coming to school daily, on time and daily. Although we are seeing improvement, we have a lot of work to do. And then currently for this year, and I checked it again this morning, we're at 24%. So we are on an improvement trend, but clearly it's far away from that initial 13-15% pre-COVID. The strategies that we use, regular communication both at the school and district level, and this is with parents and students through websites, the parent-student handbook, school messenger. Schools do their own unique communications and also use social media. All schools use PBIS incentives for regular and on-time attendance. We have student support teams, SST teams, at all schools and at the district level. And one of the main things that are talked about at every meeting are attendance issues, and specifically individual students, so that we can actually intervene to eliminate barriers and see what's the reason, why are they not coming to school, how can we get them in the building. Here's an example from Stevensville Middle. They put this out on their school messenger as well as on their social media. And it's a good example because I don't think people fully understand, but if you see it says when a student misses 2 days a month, doesn't seem terrible, that student's going to be chronically absent for the school year. That's 20 days. And knowing if you're absent 18, that will make you chronically absent. This is an example of schools use this as well through School Messenger, but we send a lot of attendance letters, both at the school level and at the district level. These are typically included with those letters so that parents, if they have questions, they know who to contact. And there's just a lot of good information about chronic absenteeism. Some of the incentives that are used are individual monthly attendance awards, and that's both at elementary and secondary. At the elementary level, they do class incentives, monthly class incentives, and which is kind of gives that team camaraderie, and encourage, your classmates to come to school when they get a nice prize, and that's a big deal at the elementary. And of course, and it has been even since I was in school, end of the year perfect attendance certificates. The intervention protocols that we use really should start with the classroom teacher. They have that initial relationship with the student. They know the student. They make the contact with the family and say, look, we miss Johnny. He's not in. We're concerned. We want to make sure he's in school. And we feel that can be the most effective right off the bat if teachers are able to do that. From there, they would refer it to, in essence, the student support team, where the school counselor and the administration kind of take on that piece, and they are making phone contacts, sending attendance letters, bring them in for conferences and potentially creating attendance improvement plans. And then our pupil personnel workers, PPWs, which I was for many years, they also do the phone contacts and letters, et cetera, but they do home visits, and that can be a very powerful tool. Most people don't want school officials or any official knocking at their door, but if you're there regularly saying, we know your child's not in school, we want them in school, they need to come to school, it's the law, it can be very powerful. What we find often is there's usually, that poor attendance is a symptom of something else that's happening either with them personally or in the home. So we do make referrals to behavioral and mental health agencies, Department of Social Services. There are times where older siblings might be at home caring for younger siblings, and that's not okay, and we need to make sure that that we can provide them help to fix that. But other referrals to community mentoring, mediation, mobile crisis, the local care team through the local management board, they have funds sometimes that can assist families with whatever issues that may be going on. Mail-in wraparound and coalition of families. And then there's the punitive piece, because it is a law. It's a compulsory attendance law, and we do make referrals to district court and juvenile services when applicable. The state's attorney in Queen Anne's County Historic has been a great partnership. They work very well with us. They will prosecute. All that they ask is that they're notified first, or that Mr. Richardson, and before that, Mr. Cradaville will send a letter to the family saying, I've been informed your child's truant. If this does not improve, you will be prosecuted. That's very powerful too. Now again, those are for our truant students' unlawful absences. For a student that might be out 10 days that's chronically absent because they were sick, that wouldn't apply. So really the conclusion is it is a national issue right now in our county, in our state, in our country. Our student services team will continue to focus on that and use effective strategies. The PPWs that I mentioned earlier, they're 11-month employees. They do work in the summer, as do I. What I'm thinking we want to do this summer is just to have a list, and it'll be over 1,000 students that were chronically, the trend we're on right now, that are chronically absent for this past school year, and we'll make contact. Certainly the ones that we're more concerned about will be a phone call or potentially a home visit, but at the very least, letters. Any questions?
I just have a question about this. So knowing that it's the law, have we, what if you had somebody who's chronically absent who they had their 4.0 average or a 4.1 average? Are you probably not going to, what kind of factors come in? Because it's a law, it's kind of harsh, and then I'm wondering also what the teachers are feeling. What kind of hardships are they getting by having these students that then are gone a lot and then they're coming back and having to?
And that's a great question, because that is a big challenge. And we have students, and because we created a learning platform, there's a lot of our brighter students are able to really complete and do a lot of the work and do well, where they're not coming as daily like we would like them to. As far as the law doesn't care about that. We really, the main ones that we refer to district court, if they're over 16, if they're 14 or over, it has to go to juvenile services. But the elementary students, we will bring those to district court, and it doesn't matter how their academic progress is, but we know ourselves as educators that at that level, it's so important to ingrain that habit now, to have them, see the importance of attendance and attend regularly. So once we write actually, we're filing charges and we're putting in all the dates of unlawful absences. The state's attorney doesn't care how well they're doing in school. They're looking at the fact, really, if they're absent unlawfully one day, they could prosecute that. But usually when they're up around 20 or more and we know it's a pattern, a problem, and we're not able to fix it ourselves, that's when we involve the court.
Thanks. And if I could add, the compulsory attendance law in Maryland doesn't have an exception for people with good grades.
That's the short answer, yes.
Yeah, and when you're supposed to attend something, we spend a lot of money on students' education. They need to be there. That's going to be all through life as they go through work, commitments and stuff like that. But one thing I do, I see sometimes, they'll know on a Friday before Christmas or the day before Thanksgiving, nobody, half the class ain't going to be there. And maybe half the teachers aren't going to be there, or half the staff's not there. Everybody's doing something. Does it correlate with is our staff showing up? You lead by example. And I know people get sick and people have personal days and all this stuff. That's the same as students and parents have issues because somebody's sick and all this. But I just wonder if it's just a national trend that people just don't spend enough time making a commitment if they're supposed to be either at work or at school or whatever.
Well, it's certainly been the case after COVID. And I'm not speaking of teachers, but just in general, so many people are working from home. Our other agencies still, not all of them work 5 days a week in the office. They're still teleworking maybe a day or two. And
that's what you're supposed to be doing. But I'm just wondering, if a student comes home and says, well, my teacher wasn't there today. I'm not, not that they didn't have a good reason not to be there. I'm not going to judge individual stuff there. But do we have any data on, is our staff at 95 to 100? I know not 100, nobody's 100%. But, do we have, and maybe that's not for you to answer. Maybe sometime the board could get a little update because you lead by example. And if you show up for work and you're there at 7 o'clock, everybody else shows up. If you slide in at 8:30, everybody's going to slide in at 8:30.
Agreed.
And if you don't go to work every day, somebody else can say, well, why should I go to school every day? I just, I don't know, the little things we can do to get this better. And I can understand COVID, people got out of the thing, the routines, and it's tough. But, if you commit to something and, we spend a lot of money in education. And, very few things in life do you get free. And you get a free education in Queen Anne's County if you're willing to attend it, and a good one.
Right.
So,
Agreed.
I think people need to be more aware of that.
I agree, leading by example is important. I do not have staff attendance data and don't have access to that, but.
Okay. Well, maybe something the board could look at sometime.
Dr. Knoll, did you want to weigh in on just?
I know for the teachers, for the support staff, it's a harder number to run because some are 12-month employees, some are 10-month employees. But for our teachers, I know the last time we looked at it, we were in the mid-90s for average attendance for our teachers. Mid-90s, yes, sir. I can get more specific information if you want.
Yeah, and that's a good number. But are there certain days or certain times where things get to be a little bit more, where we can make it as, we're all a team. We all want to be there as much as you can. And I just find, it's awful tough to tell your student or, I think they should be there. And, just seems like it's this day and age, it's easy not to do something,
Agreed.
But
yeah,
that's just my.
No, and it comes with a lot of challenges, and
And we're professionals,
we don't have the same substitute pool as we did prior to COVID. So we have like half, maybe just over half of what we had pre-COVID. That's challenging. Substitutes are very costly, and the best person to be in front of students is the teacher.
Well, that's what.
So I agree with you that we need to continue to encourage our staff members to be present, and it's important.
Yeah, because I think substitutes are great fill-ins, but they're not a teacher. And that teacher's been teaching that class 180 days a year, knows that class, and I don't think any substitute comes in and keep the level of education at the same level as a teacher can. And they need, we just need to make sure that, it's a thing there because, like I said, you don't get there's no free lunch.
Yeah.
The only thing close to being free is education, up to high school, through high school. And you take advantage of it.
And we educate everybody, yes.
Yeah, right. We think, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
President Bennett, before we move forward, can we move our overnight trip 802 up to next. It's an action for the board to review and
I'm okay with
approve.
that.
We got a group that probably wants to not be here all night.
Is that a motion to amend the
That's
agenda?
a motion to move the agenda
Second.
item 802
All
up.
in favor?
Aye.
This is 802.
Good evening. My name is Jackson Lindsay, and I'm the president of the Queen Anne's County High School Theater's ITS chapter. We are here tonight to request approval for the Performing Arts Department's overnight trip to New York City from April 10th until April 12th. We have 27 students planning on going, and we are planning on staying at the Fairfield Inn, which is located in Times Square, New York, and is within walking distance to the theaters and workshops we will be visiting and participating in. All of our members who are planning on going are all excited to go and have this opportunity to meet with leaders in the musical theater business and have different opportunities to meet people at the top of the craft we love so much.
Hello, my name is Sam Holdgreave. I am the vice president of our ITS chapter. And throughout the trip, there are multiple different opportunities to meet and work with actors and theater professionals who are actively working at the upper echelon of their respective fields that will allow students to look into futures and helping them better visualize how to pursue them.
Hi, I'm Megan Hastings. I'm an ITS member. We are excited to not only be able to see Broadway shows, but we will also be able to have workshops and one-on-one training time with industry professionals and tours of historic moments in New York City history.
Hi, I'm Emmy Dumont. I'm the ITS treasurer, and not only will we be utilizing the buddy system at all times, but we will also have a chaperone with us at all times and in each hotel room, as well as a provided individual from EFF Tours to accompany us every location we go in the city. Students have had multiple fundraising opportunities over the last half year. We participated in a Charleston Rat fundraiser as well as a Butter Braids fundraiser prior to winter break. And the students that participated in the fall play also had a basket fundraiser as well. We are super excited about this incredible opportunity and are looking towards the trip with excitement. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Any show in particular y'all looking forward to seeing?
We have to vote.
But it's up to Miss Murphy and Miss Tyler and Mr. Whitehair to decide.
Well, what did you want to see most?
Oh, what'd you vote for, Sam?
Hadestown.
Okay, all right.
I want Sweeney Todd.
Sweeney Todd.
Sounds exciting. Any questions or comments?
I think it's great. I'm glad you said buddy system.
Thank you. Yes.
And safety, because, you know, New York is a great place to be, a great place to see, great opportunity, but the
Stick
world's
together.
tough out there. And
That's right.
Be with somebody all the time and keep all your eyes 360.
There you go.
No swivel. No swivel, these fellas. Yes, all right.
Make
Any
a
other-
motion, we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a
Thank you
good
very
time.
much.
Can't wait to
Good
hear.
safe time.
Enjoy.
Now we go back to 607.
Yes. Okay, we're hearing about iReady Math and ELA updates, Ms. Passon and Ms. Smith. Like if that'd been that easy, I'd have been asked to move up, right, to 202 or something.
Good experience to listen to a little bit.
Yes, uh-huh.
You also believe in the buddy system?
There you go. There you go.
Data?
I'd be
Have a
rougher here
wonderful
than in New York, huh?
It's always provided great success between that buddy system.
Yes. Good evening, Ms. Bennett, Dr. Salins, board members, and executive team. I'm Amy Smith, Supervisor Curriculum Instruction for K-12 Mathematics and Gifted and Talented. Today I have my mathematics hat on.
Good evening, I'm Bridget Passon, ELA Supervisor for grades 3 through 12. My hat tonight, also the Title IIA Grant Manager and Instructional Coach Coordinator.
So tonight, we just wanted to take an opportunity to kind of revisit some of our data for our students' progress so far this year. In the fall, you know, I came and talked to you a little bit about our math startup and where we were with our MCAP and the fall diagnostics, as well as kind of where we finished with our diagnostics. And now we wanted to give an opportunity for us to share our progress currently for both math and ELA. The nice thing is that we do have the iReady diagnostics, and so that makes it a consistent data point that we can actually refer and analyze and see progress with our students and be able to talk to you about it. So our first initial diagnostic is given in September. And what we did find is that we entered the school year, while it looks like when we show you those data, you'll see a lot of red and that kind of a thing. And that's a normal progress as kids are coming back from their summer stay, and there's always a little summer dip. What we did notice is when we started looking at some of the cohorts is that students came back in a much better starting place than when they had started the prior year. So they're holding a lot of their content knowledge. We just have hit our mid-year diagnostic in January. We still have a few students that are completing it because the window is open until for another week and a half for any students that may need some extended time or have had some absences, or because of weather that's kind of set things off. And so the information that we're going to share with you is the data that we have currently for the students that have both completed fall and winter. So I'm starting off with elementary mathematics. You're going to see similar graphs as we look through the 3 levels, both elementary, middle, in ELA and in math. So, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the progress reports that we can see from there. So as you can see with elementary mathematics, we've seen quite a significant gain just in our first fall diagnostics to winter diagnostics. We've had some significant growth and moves there. And what I do want to call attention to is that from the fall to the winter, we have seen 22% of our students moving into that on grade level, being ready to absorb the content that at the grade level that they're at, and moving forward to be really ready to excel and move forward. And what that translates to is that's 344 students we have moved from red and yellow bands up into the green bands. And that's quite significant just in this halfway point of the year. You'll see that 10% of our 10% of our students have moved out of that red band. And that's a huge factor too. So that now that those students that were 2 or more grade levels below when they initially started, they are now progressing to be closer to their on grade level status. And that's 273 students that we've moved in mathematics. So our elementary teachers are just doing a really dynamic job focusing around their small group instruction, around students' targeted needs, and having that pathway as an added support that's really directed around the students' gaps themselves. We did want to give you an opportunity to have access to see each of the grade levels themselves kind of taken out. And when you look at your primary grades, your K-2, you'll notice a much smaller bands, and in some cases, no bands of red. Well, remember, those are our foundational years, and that's where we're really getting students ready for that content level where they're going to ultimately be assessed in starting in 3rd grade. And so we have had some real significant moves there within our grades, and I got to call out my 5th grade because 5th grade is actually, our 5th grade results across the state was recognized. I just got an email today about some of the progress we saw in our 5th grade last year. And so those teachers have really rallied around the resources and opportunities for building kids and getting them ready for their progression as they're entering middle school in that coming year. We know that you have had a lot of interest around the male and female dynamic, so we wanted to make sure that we shared with you to show you some growth, that we're really seeing some great growth in our male dynamics as well as our female dynamics across the board. And so this just gives you an opportunity to see in our gentlemen in mathematics, we've moved 344 students in the male category up into on grade level content. And so that was very exciting to see. And in the ladies, we've moved 294. So we are really making some great growth and progress. This next one that I was showing you is just kind of giving you an idea, and you're going to see this similar graph in ELA, both elementary and middle. What this does is it takes a note when we think about a student's growth in their learning, we want them to accomplish at least 1 full year academic growth. And I talked to you in the fall a little bit about the stretch growth and how much success we as a county saw in our stretch growth, and we were recognized for it. So this data shows you how many of our students have met halfway point in their typical growth, which is really where we should be seeing students as they've gone halfway through the year. And so as you look at your grade levels, you can see that we have at 53% in kindergarten, fifth grade, 54% of our students are already halfway to their target annual growth. But that exciting part is when you look at the stretch growth and the percentage of students that are already halfway to their stretch growth, which what that translates to is a lot of those students have already met that typical growth, which is really important for students who have been struggling and had some gaps in their learning. And generally, the students that are making those stretch growth are those students that have been in that red bar. So the fact that we have this quantity of students that have already met almost that halfway point of stretch is really exciting. And I think that we're going to see a lot of payout in their understanding and as they're moving some of their responses mathematically across the board.
Before we move to the ELA side? Sure. If you could drop back to slide 5. Sure. In grades 3, 4, and 5, we are making a lot of progress in moving into the green bands, but we are also increasing the red bands, which is more than 3 grades behind. Do we know why that is?
So when you look at those bands, going from fall to winter, they've significantly decreased across those grade levels.
Correct.
So what we do know is in 3rd grade is when the content rigor really kind of ratchets up, and that's the first year of testing year. So then the program is also helping students get ready for those formats and how to see those expectations. We focused a lot of our instructional time around our small groups in mathematics, and so I firmly believe that a large percentage of our students have moved because of that really targeted small group instruction around that.
Okay.
And I'd like to go back to the gender, boys and girls one, just to add a little bit more information that the boys are actually outperforming the girls at 44% against 38%. So that's a 6% change factor there, which is actually not statistically significant because 7% is considered statistically significant. So really, even though it appears that the boys are outperforming the girls, they really pretty much are performing about the same.
They are. It is a balance, and what you
and that's the county information, and that's everyone who takes the test, which is again all the way up to their 8th grade.
Right. And the other thing I do want to note is you can see our numbers here, and we have right now with the comparative data of the same number of students that were in the fall pot and in the winter pot right now, you can see we have about 200 more males in there than female. And as you start to look globally in our total population, we have more males in our population than we do females right now. We are not in a 50-50 role. It's not quite balanced. And so when you see that, that's something to also be keeping in mind.
Okay.
Is that K through 5 on that gender chart?
This one is K through 5. This is all elementary. And then you'll see one for middle and
My summary is K through 5 as well.
Yes.
Okay, on to ELA. So we'll start with elementary ELA. We are showing great progress. You can see that the green bars are getting bigger and the red bars are getting smaller. That's how my ELA mind needs to look at it. Amy helped me with some of the numbers. So the great news there is that 18% of our students, that's 333 students, moved to on-grade level between fall and winter in K to 5, and that is outstanding. 148 of our elementary students moved out of the red zone and started making progress. They are probably part of that 35%, but still there was absolute movement. So great things happening kind of from an overall snapshot for elementary ELA. On our by grade slide, same applies as Amy said, K to 2, we're learning, we are laying the foundation for literacy skills. And then you look at our intermediate grades, which are under my purview. And in particular, my eye was drawn to 5th grade, right? So what's going on in 5th grade? So our 5th graders were first graders when the pandemic hit. So in March of their 1st grade year, they were sent home. Second grade, which is a really critical year for learning how to read, they were virtual and not all day long. So that certainly had an impact. 21-22, Matt showed you the absentee data from that year, but we also brought him in. But to the extent that we were masked and teaching sounds and blending with a mask on, or even if our teachers had to step back and wear one of those face shields so they could watch the movement of your lips as sounds are formed, as words are formed. My impression is that is what is impacting our fifth graders the most right now. I drilled down on the data a little bit and where we see the deficits are in phonics. So across the board, we need to be doing work with phonics with our fifth grade students, and our new program that we just implemented this year has those resources. iReady has those resources and can allow for instructional grouping based on, does a student need phonological awareness, which is just learning the letters A, B, B, C, thank you. Or do they need work with blending the sounds in phonics? So using these resources is also allowable in our small group rotations. And so we're thrilled to have this as an extra resource. But I assumed the question was coming my way anyway, since you asked Amy with fifth grade what was going on. My assessment is that with our fifth graders, we are still pulling them out of the trouble that the pandemic caused with learning how to read.
Is that what when you meet with your peers, is that what you're finding, like statewide or countrywide? Are we finding that fifth grade, because of the?
Fifth and eighth tends to be.
Hard anyway.
Yes.
Which is that's the test.
Transition.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we feel like they are going, given all the resources that we have now, that we are attacking fifth and eighth grade with these problems, do we think they're going to recover and be successful? Are we confident that we are be able to get them over this hump and they'll be able to move?
I think we're making all the right moves. I think from a middle school perspective, I think we have iReady in middle school so that work can continue. The expectations that we set forth with our middle school ELA teachers in doing that work, could they be a little stronger or more purposeful or more goal set? Absolutely, and that's a conversation that I can have with our reading specialists and showing them, look, our fifth graders, we have got to get them out of this. They are on their way to you. I also know in going around to see our new program, intermediate teachers, grade 3 through 5 teachers, don't have the training in teaching how to read that our primary teachers do.
Yeah.
Right? So there's this great training that we are doing across the state that is grant funded through third grade, but we are all, my counterparts across the state, we are all looking at it from, we have got to loop fourth and fifth grade teachers in on this letters training. We have got to do some homegrown PD on phonics and phonemic awareness in the intermediate grades and the middle school grades to make teachers a little more comfortable, and or use our reading specialist time a little bit differently so that they're pushing into those tier 1 classes and supporting those small groups. Okay. So a lot to think about, but we have the data to send us in the right direction.
And I just wanted to update on the gender you're going to go there.
I was going to go there, but go ahead. Okay.
Just added that in reading, the females are outperforming the males.
Yes.
Females at 53%, males at 48%, which is a 5% change factor, which again is not statistically significant. So they really are performing at the same level.
Mm-hmm. And I can agree with you guys on what you said about the phonics. I have a fifth grader at home, and it's just not there. Our teacher gives all kinds of great resources, but I feel like she comes home and we spend hours a week trying to, and she just doesn't, it's not clicking. Like, she missed that whole part. And some of the things I've sat down and watched her do the iReady, because we couldn't figure out why she was rushing through it. So a lot of the stuff if she doesn't comprehend what it's asking her, she just guesses on the question. So I'm like, so then at that point, you're not really getting good data because you're just, I don't know what I'm reading, so let me just answer anything at that point. So I've been now watching her when she does her iReady and being like, okay, let me see what you're clicking on, as opposed to just, oh, click, let's go to the next one, and get her lessons done.
So there are a couple things that within the iReady program, because it is a learning train. So when students put in and they start that guessing mode, then what does happen in the background, because I think this is helpful for families to know, is that that domain, when a student is showing that it's more of the guessing trend and not, will eventually, pretty quickly, turn itself off, and then it alerts the teacher. And it says, this domain will not get turned back on until you've done redirection, because what I can offer as computer brain isn't meeting the mark right now. And so there needs to be some other specialized small group, and it shows some tiers of different instructional tools for that direct instruction for students. And then the teacher can turn that domain back on so that the student can go and get the spiral learning component. And so that's one of the things I know, at least on the math side, we've really tried to communicate that yes, we know sometimes your student might see things that you go, that's not this grade level, or that seems really easy, or this seems like it's a little bit of a challenge within their pathway, but it's part of where they were in a continuum in that strand. And what it does is it helps direct them, the teacher, how do I now need to address the next gap that the student has to get them back onto track. So just a little bit of that background, I think, is helpful for families to know too.
And it's important to note your daughter is one of the lucky ones, because not all of our schools have the ELA pathways.
Right.
Which is a budget issue, it's a funding issue, but there are some schools that have some funding that they were able to do it or did it for a certain grade level. So I'm thrilled to hear, I'm betting the expectation is 15 minutes a day, or 15 minutes at home. So that's another piece too, where, we're always looking for funding, and this is a great tool, with ELA pathways. Okay, this chart that has typical and stretch growth. So if you look at fifth grade, now here's some good news. 64% of our fifth graders have met half of their typical growth. That's a really strong statistic that shows that there is progress. On the other side of that, 46% of them have met their stretch growth. That means they've improved by about 9 months. So almost a whole school year, which is excellent. So while the grade by grade data and the score, looking at the different bands, score bands, might leads to these great conversations, this snapshot captures that progress is being made. We are moving our kids forward and working really hard to do it, and thrilled to have these iReady resources to be able to help us and measure the learning.
And just the one addition, as if you remember in the fall, we kind of talked a little bit about that stretch growth. So for a student who's behind particularly, who may have started in that red band, when we're talking about having currently about 9 months worth of growth in less than that half-year mark, that's significant for a student who's been behind. Because what they found in their research and study with the iReady program and the data that comes out is that a student who can make that stretch growth, who may have been in that red band for 2 years in a row, gets them to be an on-grade level student by the start of that second year. And so that's a really significant component of understanding for our teachers, but also for our students to know, look, you may be struggling, but if you keep working and trying and persevering through, that work towards that goal of making your stretch is actually going to move you a lot further along. So then we come to middle school mathematics, and you will see we do still have more significant bar of red, even though we've moved into fall. We have really focused in around moving small group learning opportunities for students in the middle school. So students are used to that practice in elementary school, and we are really seeing many of our middle school classes now embracing that component. We've also adopted the iReady pathway for our students who are in math intervention, and so we are seeing great growth with our students that have moved out So we've reduced our red by about 4% in the fall, from fall to winter, and we still have work to do, I know. But as you look at it, you can see that in 6th grade, which was exciting for me to see this move, our 6th grade have really come from 5th grade prepared and are now remembering and regaining a lot of their growth back very quickly. And our 6th grade teachers, I have to call them out because they have really implemented with some great fidelity that small group rotation, and we're seeing a lot of the gains there from that group of students. 8th grade, remember 8th grade, the students that are in this collection are students that are not in Algebra 1. So these are your struggling most learners currently in 8th grade, and we are seeing students that are making moves, and we are still working on putting in our building thinking classrooms, building more of that mathematics discourse, and really trying to help move them forward in some of those gaps. And again, here is our male and female data for you to be able to have available. You will notice that we have increased our green bar for our males by about 11%. And so that's about 57 boys that have moved up into the green band across the middle school. And then for our girls, that is about 12% that have moved up into their grade level content. And that translates to about 57 students there. And so we are making significant moves, and we're still working on using our tools to make sure that we're meeting those specific standard goals that are being pointed out through those diagnostics of where students need extra help and progress.
Okay, middle school ELA. So progress being made, the green bars are getting bigger, red smaller. So 71 of our middle school students moved to the green. They moved to early on grade level or mid or above, so that's great news. 45 of our middle school students moved out of the red, so also good news. So progress being made for our middle school students. I'm going to go right to 8 because I know you see a lot of red there, and that was startling. So it is important. I don't think we've pointed it out yet. We pulled this data early last week, and schools were still testing. So this data does not capture all of our 8th grade students. So I did rerun the numbers today for 8th grade, and the percent that are 2 grade levels below went down to 26%. Or pardon me, that are 3+ grade levels below, that number went down to 26%. So there, and in the fall, that number was actually at 33%. So again, 8th grade, 3 or more grade levels below. In the fall, it was actually 33%, and right now, it is 26%. So that just settled kind of how I looked at that much red, with more than a third of our 8th graders being 3+ grade levels below. That is not the case. But still work to be done here, still work to be done. We don't have the pathways in our middle schools, but, or we have them in one of our middle schools, but not all, but we do highly encourage that use of iReady materials to do small groups to help build those comprehension skills. And vocab, when I drilled down, vocab seemed to present itself as an area where we need to find better resources or a better way to approach vocab with our middle school students. Middle school ELA, male-female comparison, about a little more than 50 more boys than girls. Our girls outperforming our boys in ELA, but we are working to make shifts there as well, with repeated small grouping and getting our male students what they need, and also looking to or hoping to capitalize on one of the gender gap recommendations to adopt more novels with male protagonists. So that our boys can see themselves in our books, because these middle school grades really tend to be when boys kind of move away from reading, and there's lots of brain science there that I can get into at another time, but we know the problem is there. We're working to address it.
And so we just wanted to we've mentioned in different places some of the things that we are focused around. We're continuing to work with our teachers in using those small group opportunities, including in middle school when it's not typically the practice. And we're starting to move even that into high schools and seeing teachers that are really embracing it there as well to help meet those needs. We have the personalized instruction pathways for math from K to 5. A couple schools have now purchased it for ELA in the elementary, and then for our middle school, it is part of our intervention curriculum itself for the students, so that the students are getting some special targeted instruction around those places that are definite gaps for them. In math, we've really worked and focused around building the thinking classrooms. We will continue that work because that builds more of that modeling and reasoning, which is a key area on assessments for MCAP, as well as just being knowledgeable individuals and being able to think and reason about mathematics outside of four walls and a textbook. You want to talk about that one?
Sure. For program monitoring, Amy and I have partnered along with Jolene Smith, our special education supervisor. In early August, we presented co-teaching professional development to all our special and general educators in grades 6 through 12. And now we're going into each school once in the fall. We went to every secondary school, and we're starting our visits next week for the spring semester to go in and give targeted feedback on how those co-teaching partnerships are working, what instruction is looking like. So that was a really big initiative for the three of us that we are seeing progress with. And those co-teaching models support all students. So we're excited about that initiative. And then we have a brand new reading program, which we are thrilled about. HMH is into reading. We're in its first year of implementation. We are well aligned with the state of Maryland's latest proclamation on the science of reading, as we adopted a research-based, evidence-based product that provides lots of resources for students to learn how to read, and for our advanced readers, lots of opportunities to enrich their reading capabilities. And it's going, I have 2 more schools to visit to see really how it's going. I've really been focused on small groups and what small groups are looking like, because small groups look a lot different than they did when we were using whole language in a balanced approach. And our elementary schools are doing an incredible job with making sure that when they pull a small group, they are pulling resources that meet that group exactly where they are so they can move them forward. So I'm thrilled to report that, and I've been thrilled to see it.
Any other questions that you might have for either of us?
Is there didn't interrupt you. Is there any way to compare the math and ELA data to see if, like, the children are performing better in math as they would as opposed to ELA, or if they're better performers in ELA? Is there a way to compare that at all?
I mean, they're kind of unique entities. I can go in and do some comparison now that we have all of the components or all of the elementary through, and we've almost completed all of the middle. I wouldn't want to make that comparison right now in the side-by-side because there were still too many outlying students. But we might be able to kind of come up and look at what is our percentages that were above grade level or 2 or more grade levels below, and kind of that kind of a comparison.
Okay. Sorry, Helen.
No, you're good. I just had a question. So in the middle school, when we were comparing the boys and the girls, in the winter testing, the boys were at 28% of 3+ grades below, and the girls were at 21%. So that was a 7% difference. So is that statistically significant?
Or were we talking?
The middle school, the winter testing, sorry, let me go back to that.
Math or ELA?
It was ELA, the one we just had,
Okay.
yes.
I think it was page 17.
Well, the
Slide
winter
17.
testing, it was, let me find that page. It was, I've lost it. It was a middle school ELA boys and girls comparison.
Okay, and so.
The boys were at 28% in the winter of 3 grades or plus below their grade level, and then the girls were at 21% in the winter. So so would that be a statistically significant amount since it's 7%?
7%.
Well, when you're talking about, I mean, it's right at the 7% mark. You're
Right,
at
which
20.
was what we said was
Yeah, I
statistically
mean,
significant.
it's like that border of you could potentially call it that, but again, with this percentage and then what Ms. Passon said, since she pulled that data right now, that data itself is a little bit off because of the numbers that were both tested in the fall and in the winter. But we could pull a data report of, as we finish next week and all of the students have gone through middle school.
And this is the aggregate, so this is all students.
This is all students.
Just middle school or just, fifth grade or
Well,
whatever.
this group is just middle school.
Right,
there.
but the numbers that I shared
Yeah.
were for countywide.
Right.
K through 8.
Okay. A lot of information. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. Very helpful.
Oh, Dr. Kibler with an enrollment update. Looks like good news, right?
Evening, President Bennett, Dr. Salins, board members and executive team. I'm Dr. Kibler, Director of Accountability and Implementation and interim CFO. Be switching hats off and on multiple times. I took the IT hat off there. Let me put it back on for a second.
Gonna have to get him a hat rack.
That's true.
No, thanks. All right. So basically, I'm here tonight first to give an update on our student enrollment across the district. So this is an annual presentation we've been giving. Basically, these slides tonight are, you can go back multiple years, see the same presentation, updated numbers, but just talk you through a little bit of what our enrollment is looking like. And I might jump through a couple slides. You and the public can kind of dive into ones that interest you the most. But here, this one is just all schools, all grade levels, what the enrollment looks like. I would prefer for this presentation to talk through the graphs a little bit because I think that's the easiest to kind of look at and understand instead of the big chart of all the individual numbers. So this is our fall enrollment. And if you remember, Maryland State Department of Education has us calculate our enrollment as of the September 30th count. You'll hear that all the time. What's your September 30th account? That is our official census date. Anytime you ever would ask me, what's our student population at any school, any grade, I'm always going to go back to that September 30th number. So everything you see in here is based on that September 30th number. So you'll see over the past 5 years, we did have the decline in enrollment that kind of matched what Mr. Evans was talking about earlier tonight with the chronic absenteeism. He kind of alluded to that with the COVID year, going from 1920 to 2021. Staying a little bit steady, but you will see that this year we are up a little bit in enrollment. The reason we have this separated, the blue bar represents grades K through 12, and the green piece represents the pre-K students. The reason I broke that out there is just because of the way funding works from the state. So when we get into the budget portion of my evening, you have a little context there.
So really, the only reason we're up this year is because of pre-K.
Well, we're up 62 students for K to 12.
Yeah.
And then we're up, 49 and 4, so
Okay, you combined
53
these together.
students in
Okay.
pre-K. So overall, we're up around that 110, 115 student mark in the district. And so I will say, when you're looking at that pre-K number there right now, the 349, that's what we would call a head count. So we actually have 349 pre-K students in our buildings. We currently right now have 5 schools with the full-day pre-K program. So we have 240 full-day pre-K seats out of that 349. The rest of the students would represent still Centerville Elementary School, which we'll bring online next year. So that the full day really affects the funding again when we talk later. So we're at 240 full-day seats right now. With your leadership and approval, we've increased that in 2 years from 100 seats. And next year, we'll add an additional 80. So I'm really excited about that. Later in this year, we're going to give you an update on the kindergarten readiness assessment. And I think you'll see where the decisions that this board has made with the pre-K plan, where that's really paid off. So there's a teaser. This is the fall enrollment, the FTE count. So where before it was a head count, actual bodies. Now we're talking the full-time equivalent. So a student enrolled in our programs full-time. Basically, the blue bar stays the same as the slide before, and you can see it basically mirrors the same enrollment. Again, enrollment by school, but with your permission, I would skip to where we have this broken off on the bar graphs. Okay, so you might remember last year when we did this presentation, I threw some Maryland Department of Planning numbers into this too, and talking about birth rate in Queen Anne's County, and really if we looked at that, we can see that our decline in enrollment around that COVID year was really not completely attributed to COVID. It was timing well with a declining birth rate in like 2012, 2015, 17, 18. And so that's why we should have expected some of that declining enrollment. You'll see on our elementary school enrollment that is coming back. So the elementary schools are starting to increase. You'll see on the next slide, when we go to middle school, that that's actually where we've seen the biggest decrease, which times back to those years I was talking about with where those students are. If you would reference back to that Department of Planning, Maryland Department of Planning document where they look at public school enrollment and projections for 10 years in the entire state of Maryland, Queen Anne's County in the late 2020s is actually expected to have the highest proportion of student growth at the middle school level. And you can kind of see why that's going to be. If you look at this graph, our middle school enrollment is down. You go back to the previous graph, elementary school enrollment is going up. So eventually that's going to come to the middle schools.
Yep.
High school enrollment right now, it has been relatively flat, one school going up just a tad, one school going down just a tad. But if you look at those middle school numbers, we're in for a couple years coming up where the high school enrollment will go down a little bit. But again, that will bounce back by the late 2020s, early 2030s. The ethnicity of our student enrollment, in general, we can see just the Hispanic population increasing. What we've also included in this data is not monitored by my office. This is through Mr. Evans and the Student Services Office, but just so you all know the home instruction data by year, you can see the homeschool student population in the district. So we have a number of students that are monitored by Queen Anne's County Public Schools and then the umbrella organization through MSDE. And that had, I guess I sort of breezed over it, but those numbers came down a little bit since they spiked in COVID. So students returning back to school. And then the data by year at the different grade levels you'd like to see, but that would be timed with the birth rate numbers too, partly why they would decline. So I'm happy to take any questions.
I just wanted to share one more comment that our blended virtual program option will conclude at the end of this school year based on the legislation and the requirements and expectations there. So we have about 25 students there in that program that will have to really make a decision of whether they come back to the day program or whether they go to home instruction. That could impact enrollment next year in a negative way if students choose to go the homeschool route. If they choose to obviously go back to their home-based school, that's great. But currently in the blended virtual program, they are considered 100% our students. So they are within that funding count. So that's something that we are looking at and will monitor as we move into next year.
Is there a certain number of them that are like high school, middle school, elementary? Like what are we?
Well, that's only 6th grade through 12th grade for the blended virtual model. And
I believe most of them are still high school. I would have to go back and check, but Is it more
It's
balanced?
kind of a half and half. At one point it was. I mean, maybe it's slightly more lean towards the high school.
I haven't looked at it recently. I could get you those numbers.
Oh, no, I was just curious to see, like, a lot of them, it seems like we sometimes gain high school students.
Yes, at that
From-
level,
yeah,
yeah, because they're, you know, that degree option and getting the credits.
Sports.
Yes, sports too,
Sports,
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But the one thing I think people got to understand is, when we talk about, maybe losing 100 students, you're not going to save 4 teachers, because you still have to do the same program.
Absolutely.
You might lose 2 students out of one class,
Right.
but.
Or one
it's-
school, you know, in one school.
It's
in
not like, it's not
particular.
like it's 25 elementary schools that you drop a class.
Right, from one school. They're
It's
from
from one school.
various
So,
schools,
when we
from-
look at 25 over all our schools, or 100,
Right.
it's like when you absorb 100 more. You can take a few in, but you're not going to really save anything. Matter of fact, personally, on a economically, we lose because of our funding formulas.
Right.
It's very tough when somebody says, even if you stay flat, it's tough, because electricity goes up, and staff wants, we got to pay people more money all the time.
Yep, agreed with that.
Any other comments?
No.
Thank you, Dr. Kibler.
He's going to be up
I
here for a
know,
while.
but for the enrollment, now we.
I
now
would
we-
be happy
I'm
to
waiting for him
walk
put another
back and
hat
come
on,
back
yes.
if you like.
You need to get your steps in.
I do. I was going to just bring everything and set up camp.
All right. So the next thing was just the monthly expenditure status report. And so those are posted, and I'm happy to take questions if anybody has them.
I always
No, I
take
think-
pity on them, I'm not.
I know, it's harsh.
The other thing we know is maintenance. That's an ongoing thing that we got to keep an eye on. I think over the last couple of years, probably has kept as close eye on it as we needed to, or things have happened. It costs to maintain buildings. And we're like Walmart. We're open almost 24/7.
That's
A
right.
lot of use. It's not like a screen door at your house.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, people are using it all the time.
Yeah.
And and it's nice to have Parks and Rec and then using them for activities on Saturdays and stuff, but it costs money to keep these buildings open.
Sure does.
And, and I think, I gotta admit, I give Sid credit and everybody, we have good facilities. Ours look good, we keep them up, but, it takes a lot of effort and money.
I would like to thank just Mr. Pender and his team, working with my team in the finance office, really looking at those categories, trying to get a good idea of where we're going to end up for the year, just, especially now, hopefully starting to get towards the end of the heating season sooner rather than later, so that we can get some good numbers and see where that's going to go.
But you still have a, leaky roof, cracked curb, potholes somewhere, desk, furniture.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
I'm knocking on wood, I'm not.
Thank you.
Sure. Are ready to move on?
Yes.
I've been sitting over there quiet. All right, so now, so this presentation, this was meant to be at our first scheduled budget workshop for the year, for fiscal year '25. That was supposed to be on January 7th, that we had to cancel due to inclement weather. In general, it's the same presentation. It is updated a little bit because back when we were going to do it in January, we had no updated projected numbers from the state. And we do have that now, so we were able to change it a little bit. So we just want to walk you through where we're at right now as we start planning for fiscal year '25. And again, this focus really tonight is on the operating budget. So this first slide, just a budget breakdown, Dr. Salins and I thought it would be interesting just to share for fiscal year '24. This one does include capital, and then we'll kind of drop capital for the rest of the talk. But just to kind of look at total revenues that we have coming in when you're looking at grants and everything. The grants would be the restricted, and then the unrestricted is basically the state and local money coming. What you'll notice with the green, so that operating unrestricted, the $111 million, 89% of the total budget. The solid green represents just salaries.
Let that sink in a little bit.
Yeah. Wow.
That's better. I mean, that's, people, but costs money.
That's right.
You know, when we talk about what way we can trim things and make things more efficient, get rid of people. I mean, we're not going to. But you might have to. But, I mean, that's where the money is.
So we just wanted to start with just showing just really
Visual.
Yeah, it is, it is, it's very, and I
Very
thank
big
Matt for
piece.
doing it, I just had the
Yeah.
concept, and he's able to bring it to fruition. But it's very it's a very powerful graph that as we move into some very, very harsh budget times, people, like Mr. Smith said, are the majority of your budget.
Yeah.
And really, if you took capital out of that graph, it would only increase
Exactly.
the proportion of just the unrestricted piece.
And a lot of other things, I mean, you have to have electricity, you gotta have heat. I mean, a lot of things are fixed costs that aren't variable that you just gotta have to open the doors.
Right.
And we, you know, we have to have teachers and staff, but, yeah, that's where,
Well, I was quite taken back when we had our CAC meeting and Mr. Pender is telling us what his 1.1% of the budget is for the entire, every single
Everything.
building. Yes, it's for every building that we have. That's incredible what you can do with so little. And that's really unconscionable, really.
It is, absolutely. And every year, you know, it's everybody, you know, we sit at a round table and a lot of our administrators say, you know, we need furniture or we need this painted or new flooring here. But then at the end of the day, when you say, if we only have this much money, what do you need? Staff, 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 staff. So what gets taken off the plate?
Furniture.
Furniture, yeah, exactly.
else.
So that kind of falls off the plate. So it's a challenge. It is. Yep.
Okay. So next with this, really wanted to focus tonight just on the fiscal year 25 revenue and what we're talking about. It kind of seems silly, but we're going to call it unrestricted revenue, but with new blueprint mandates, I don't necessarily think that calling it unrestricted is fair because we do have to spend. But for purposes of what folks are used to, this is our unrestricted money. The numbers I'm going to show tonight are the state aid draft numbers that calculates what the state of Maryland is giving us, as well as the calculation for maintenance of effort for what the local county government has to give us as well. Again, I would preface these are draft numbers, so there could be some changes to the calculations. I might talk about, when we get to the different categories, some potential legislation in two areas to give us some relief, at least from the state. I do want to point to, until we go to the next chart, that maintenance of effort, when people talk about maintenance of effort, and I was guilty of this when I was first learning like outside of the school system or like administration in a school system, people think of maintenance of effort, oh, the county's got to give you what they gave you last year. And that's what people kind of think. It's kind of flat. But really, maintenance of effort is they have to give you what they gave the previous year based on enrollment. It's a per pupil allocation. So I think that's important as we get into this.
that's what always made the county work in the 90s and early 2000s was growth. That, you know, you had 100, 200 students. Well, the maintenance effort was $1.5 million, $2 million. I say
Over and
mandatory,
above.
over
Over
above.
above.
Well, you had more students, but
Right.
you know, you could absorb some of that.
Right.
And we always said, if you don't have, if it ever stays flat, and, well, we're gonna find out what happens when it goes down.
So we do get our state aid funding in these categories. Just to talk about that, foundation is kind of just overall general. CCR is a college and career readiness program, so it's a students as they get to a certain threshold in high school to support dual enrollment, CTE pathways. Compensatory education is based on your farms numbers for introduced meals. Concentration of poverty, that's a new blueprint initiative, basically funding for community schools. So if an individual school reaches a certain threshold of free and reduced student members, they become a community school. You will notice when we get to in 2 slides, we are going to have our first community school this year. So that plays a part in our increased funding. English learners, special ed, transitional supplemental instruction. This is for additional support for students in grades kindergarten through 3, and it's based on your third graders, based on third grade performance on the MCAP, the Maryland assessment, and then they give you funding for the number of students you have in K to 3. Just they kind of take a proportion. Well, what proportion of students on the MCAP did not perform proficient, and they give you funding to help your students in grades kindergarten through 3 tutoring for subsequent years preparing for MCAT.
I think it's important to note that, for example, with CCR program, Dr. Kibler talked about dual enrollment, and that, we get now some funding towards dual enrollment, but we only get about 40% of what we really need. And typically, previous years, we've spent about $60,000 in dual enrollment for our students. With the new requirements, first semester this year, we spent $157,000. I doubled the budget last year knowing that it would increase, but I could never predict what true impact that has on our budget. And again, for the monies that come through that CCR, only cover like 40% of that. So 60% falls right directly to our operational budget that we have no control over whatsoever. That's pretty significant. That's just one example. I could give you several others in other buckets.
And then the pre-K, so that self-explanatory, just the increase. The career ladder for educators, so that's another blueprint mandate with the National Board Certified Teachers. And then this last one that started in FY24, the career counselors, which you heard some of the good work that those folks are doing too. So this is just the same enrollment graph we've seen before. And one of the reasons it was in this presentation is because we weren't going to do the enrollment presentation on the same night. This was specifically for budget. But while it's here, I want to talk about how our funding is calculated based on our enrollment for our kindergarten through 12th grade. So we are plus 61 students this year. So the state allows for one of two things. You can take the 3-year rolling average of your enrollment or your current year enrollment, whichever is higher. So that in theory should benefit us. With COVID, they basically altered the law for a year or two to say you can, as part of your 3-year rolling average, use the 2019-2020 school year as part of your 3-year rolling average. So if you're looking at the graph, for last year's funding, we were using the 19-20, 21-22, 22-23 school years to calculate our funding from the state. That law went away. 19-20 now drops out. So our choices, we're not really making choice. They take the highest. So the two options were either 21-22, 22-23, and 23-24 average, or this year. So obviously, this year is highest of the 3. However, that's still lower than last year's 3-year rolling average.
Yep.
So what does that mean? Maintenance of effort from the county, in theory, goes down.
The bottom line is the law says the county could give us $812,000 less than they did last year.
That's correct. Yep. So what I have here, and this, if you would go back to last year's budget book or the previous few years' budget book, this is just a snapshot of the revenue page of the budget book. So last year's approved budget, this year's projected FY25 budget. Now what we did put on this slide, we show the increase in the state, and you can see where the different categories sort of shake out with increases and decreases, and I'll dive in that in a minute. But we did put in there an assumption that our local county government would keep us flat from last year.
Yes.
On the next slide, I'll show dollar for dollar what, in theory, they could do based on the formula and the law. I did sort of hint at before when we were looking at the categories that there was some proposed legislation to what they call hold harmless, so they wouldn't penalize us for going down in areas, and there are two of those. One is for the college and career ready category. If you see, we dropped from 200,000 to 74,000, and that's because we were still using the CCR numbers from our student population in 2019, 2020. You all know we've talked about it a lot at these board meetings about what happened to our MCAP scores post-COVID. This $74,000 is the first time the CCR amount is calculated off of the post-COVID MCAP numbers. So that's that drop. So there is legislation to hold us harmless. So we would get, if that passes, we would get increase there, which would be great, as well as the other place that dropped is in the TSI, the Transitional Supplemental Instruction. And again, that's the support for the kindergarten through third grade. Any questions there till I go to a summary page? So just a couple takeaways. I already talked about the first bullet. This second bullet puts that dollar figure there if the county only funded us at the maintenance of effort number. And then Sudlersville Elementary School is our school that will qualify as a community school next school year. So they will get the additional funding, which we have to put, and there are restrictions on that, and we can talk about that another time with all the exact details. But they'll receive $273,805. So if you went back and looked at kind of like our total numbers of increased funding, because we did get a little bit of a bump from the state, 26% of that goes to the community school.
Dr. Kibler, are you saying that the community school was based on the number of our reduced and free?
Yes.
So does it, remember when it was hard getting people to register for that because they were already getting it? Does that help us when we encourage people to?
Oh, absolutely,
apply for
absolutely. And that number changes each year as they try to move more and more assistance to schools. So Sudlersville Elementary School will get that we have to designate that total amount. So it has to go to that. So even though we have that increase, but we do have two potential other schools that we're hopeful in the next 2 years will become community schools. But yes, encouraging everyone to fill out the forms, and it's very easy to do that is a huge help because you can see it brings dollars to our district.
Okay.
So with the blueprint, the community school numbers, I think in the first year, we're at roughly 70 or 75% of the total population designated the school as a community school. And that threshold is dropping. And I think this year it dropped to 60%. And that's why Sudlersville drops into it. And then it goes to 55%. And that's where it'll stop next year. And we have the two schools that are going to be right on that threshold.
Yeah, we think they're like teeter-tottering. So we're really going to have to have a big push there. So.
Right. Thank you.
So as we start thinking about factors affecting next year's budget, we know we're going to have increased healthcare costs, salary enhancements. We've talked about some of these things already. The operations and building maintenance costs, like Mr. Smith alluded to. We also know that at the end of this year, we've been talking about for years now, the Esser Cliff it's
real.
We're there.
We're on it.
The LEADS grant also ends in September. We have the dual enrollment costs, like Dr. Salins mentioned, and then the national board certification costs as well.
I will mention I did bring up both of those cliffs at our meeting on Monday with the legislature, and
no response.
Yeah.
Other than we know.
Yeah, we know.
But thank you
Okay,
for
what are you
doing
gonna
that.
do about it to help out? So
Thank you for doing that. It's important they hear it from everyone, not just superintendents or, blueprint coordinators and such.
Right. So Dr. Salins kind of mentioned about budget requests. So one thing that we do in November is we, as an executive team under Dr. Salins' leadership, meet with every supervisor and every principal, as well as hear requests from other executive team members, just to talk about what kind of needs they have in their schools and in their curricular areas and their departments. So that went out in November, collect that. Folks come in December. We have individual one-on-one meetings with everyone. Over 250 requests came in. We kind of, as an executive team, categorize into these areas. What do we think needs to move forward into a budget request next year? What could we potentially have a grant fund for? What should we just go ahead and purchase right now? Like if somebody came in, my office, I'm sitting in a broken chair, just, well, we can maybe go get that chair or something. That's what that means. Potential year end, if we have money in the budget left over at the end of the year, things we had more questions about, things we didn't think we were going to fund at this time. And then every so often there's something that's currently in the operating budget that folks might not know about, or we have to increase a budget line, something like that. Just to summarize, the top requests, and we had a budget roundtable, and I don't know if you want to talk about that at all, Dr. Salins, or not, but we have the staffing requests, and that really includes instructional assistants, the permanent substitutes, which I would say are part of the ESSER funding, social workers and behavioral support, furniture, like we've already mentioned tonight, and then technology, just really reaching into life in some of our schools for the or the smart boards and projectors, and then just increased materials of instruction requests as well. So really, I would kind of want to stop at this point. This is just kind of FYI for your information. If anybody wants to look and then ask questions, these are the categories that we have to categorize our budget by. I will say, moving forward, this is going to get even more difficult because not only do we have to look at these categories like this, we're going to have to show a report by the blueprint categories down to the student and school level. So the job of the folks in the finance land across the state is going to become increasingly difficult for all these competing ways to report. But
So right now, for example, in category 06 is special education. We already currently track every special education dollar to the school by category. So a school principal will get a budget line item for materials of instruction for their general population, and then they also get a line item for materials of instruction for special ed. And the state's asking us now to track it for every single student, not just special education. So, and that includes every service we provide. So if we have a bus who has middle school and high school students on that, we're actually, and it's going to multiple schools, then we're tracking it.
Oh, my goodness.
We have to track
We
it
have
by
buses
that.
going to 3 schools. I mean,
Absolutely. I mean, Kennard,
Some elementary,
Centerville,
Kennard, and middle
Elementary,
school.
and right, and Centerville Middle School. So that's the struggle and the challenges that districts are going through right now.
so, I mean, you'll go back to like this and just look. So basically, you take any student and you see which categories they fall in, that they brought us some money, funding to the district. We're going to have to track what school that student goes, and that we are spending the portion that is provided for that category at their school.
And that's up to, we have to track 75%, or we don't get funding. So they can literally say, we're not going to provide you with your state funding because you're not meeting the law, and the expectation is to track by 75%.
Interesting part about that is we're supposed to be doing that right now, but the state is also supposed to set up a system for us to track that. They have not met their obligation, and they're also supposed to have an updated manual, the teal book, as people know, and that has not been done yet either. So we will have some liberties there for at least a year.
I know the state can't single out certain school systems, but it seems to me they're just putting a blanket on everybody to try to solve a problem of a few. And I could be wrong, and I know you won't say that, but it just seems like there's a few systems that maybe aren't operating correctly, but they're going to tell everybody to do this. And I sometimes think, you do right, and not that we're being penalized, but, I think we'll be fine with it.
You're absolutely right. And I think the challenge also is that, as you well know, they started an accountability implementation board, the AIB. And so we have two competing factors of people that we have to respond to, and the expectations for them is different. We have, we have our plans that we do, they're reviewed by the MSDE, they say we have to do it one way, then they're reviewed by the AIB. And so they've really, you got a mom-dad cut type of shot going on there that's really not
always
good.
on the same
It's not,
page.
it's not good for education.
Right.
So,
Anything else?
Just one,
Yeah.
wait, one quick question.
sure.
In the categories where we're giving definitions, remind me again where IT falls?
Mr. Pender, you can help me too, because I'm still in interim. I believe
Page 12, I'm
we're in
thinking category 3, 4,
category
5?
10. IT is in 10, correct?
10.
Operational plant and equipment.
Really? That doesn't seem like the,
There is the potential that certain IT expenditures would go into other instructional costs or the instructional textbooks and supplies. But when you're talking servers,
laptops, all of those things are in 10.
and when we get further into the budget season, bring the budget book, we can dive into that even more specific. That's what I thought. Thank you. Thank you. I'll make the rules. I follow them.
I get it. Anything else about the budget? Okay. Moving on.
One more. One more for this portion of our.
Hang in there. We got this.
We got it.
It's because we had to skip the other
I know, 'cause we
meeting
missed
because
one.
of
It's
the-
okay.
yeah.
We got it.
But we got this. We're on it.
And this one we can, so back to Blueprint. So I wanted to give everybody an update on our Blueprint implementation plan for this year. You remember I was here a few times last year around the same time to talk about our Blueprint implementation plan. So here are the Blueprint pillars. Just as a quick reminder, we've got the 5 pillars: early childhood, high quality, diverse teachers and leaders, college and career readiness, more resources to ensure all students are successful, and the governance and accountability. So with the implementation plan, you might remember this was a plan that was originally supposed to be written 2 years ago. It was delayed till last year. And when they said that we were going to write it last year, they were like, hey, wait a minute, how are you going to be able to write an implementation plan for 10 years when we don't have all the laws and things like that figured out? So let's do 3 plans. So last year we did the first plan, which is, hey, what are you guys thinking? This year they said, okay, we want to know how the first year is going, but instead of writing 1 plan this year, like we told you, we would like you to write 2 plans this year. So that is what this slide shows. The first one is due March 15th, and that's a system-wide blueprint response. That's where we're kind of aligning, and this will be something that we are well positioned for, where we are aligning what our district strategic plan is, initiatives we already had going with elements of the blueprint. Dr. Salins, when I got here, we spent a lot of time aligning our strategic plan with what we knew was coming in the blueprint, so we are well positioned for this first plan. The plan that's due May 1st mirrors last year. That's really the questions by pillar. What are you doing for your pre-K implementation? How's it going? What challenges do you have? Reviewing and reflecting and looking ahead. Other important dates that they're including for this year, I don't have to read them all, but just some other big blueprint dates. The one thing I would like to point out, because we've talked about it associated with blueprint, is there was a change with the career ladder requirements. The career ladder is not due to be implemented in its full the full way this coming year. All we have to do right now is provide a plan for levels 1 to 3. If we are ready for level 4, that's the leadership piece of it, we could, but we're only required to have levels 1 to 3 in place by July 1st. We thought that was going to be that March date, so it was moved to July, plus we don't have to have level 4. And I would say if you read the law, levels 1 to 3 are kind of the most straightforward of them. There's not as much necessarily flexibility in the first 3 levels as there are in level 4 when you get into the leadership tracks. This is just our timeline. Really, we're mirroring what we did last year to get our plan submitted by March, when we had to do it by March last year. It's kicked back till May, but really, we've got a nice plan going where we're meeting by pillar. We have pillar work groups. There's a place in here for the executive team to review, time in here where I'll share it with the School System Improvement Committee and the Citizens Advisory Council to make sure they have input, present it to you all at our May 1st board meeting, the same day that it's due to the Accountability and Implementation Board, the Maryland State Department of Education.
Said that a few times.
Yes, once or twice.
I just have I'm interested to hear, are you going to be able to read everyone's first report due in March? I mean, to say, how's it going for the first year? Because that sounds like that would be an opportunity to let the state know in real terms of how it's going, what the challenge, how challenging it's been.
Sure.
Every single county. I mean, are you going to be able to?
So all of this is public on the AIB's, the Accountability and Implementation Board's website. I will say that last year through the review process, everybody had our plans kicked back for certain areas. So we actually took advantage of the plans being posted at that time, because in areas where they're like, hey, can you strengthen this response here? We were able to go, okay, well, what did they do over in this district? And we work together closely with the other Eastern Shore counties, so we're all kind of aligned too. So we have a good team going. But to answer your question, yes, we can see what's going on with the state. My group of peers, we meet at least once a month. The Eastern Shore districts, we get together as well from time to time. So yes, to answer your question, really up with what's going on. And it's all public. And I'd be happy to provide that website to you all too if you would like to see it.
Are there any metrics in place to essentially measure all these implementations, like when they can actually show all what we're asking you to do, this is working because this? Or is there any?
So it's funny, I think I took a line out that I had in here because it's kind of what I see coming. So the Accountability and Implementation Board has 7 members, I believe, and then they have what are called pillar advisory committees. So there's additional folks working on each pillar, and what they're charged with right now is coming up with your exact question. So how can we measure progress in each of these pillars? That work is ongoing. Every now and then we get a little taste and we can see what's going on, because that's all public information yet, but there hasn't been anything sort of set in stone yet for how we're going to do this. Part of me as a blueprint coordinator is like, okay, I wrote we collectively as a district wrote the plan last year. We're writing the plan again this year. Then we have to in 4 years. It doesn't mean it's hands off, because all of those accountability measures are coming, either annual, biannual. I don't know how often they'll ask us, but it is coming. I feel like some of them, we know we're ready to go on it. Pre-K, we've got great things to say there. The CCR, what we're doing with dual enrollment, the opportunities our students have, some of the work that, and the more resources for students to be successful in our offices. I'm excited. I think we'll be ready for it. It is going to be a burden to do the extra reports. Our staff already feels burdened by the number of reports we have to do, but it's coming, to answer your question.
Thanks, Dr. Kibler. Yes, thank you. Are there any other questions, comments? Okay. Thank you.
All right, hang in there. We have one
Yes,
more.
Dr. Sprangel.
I know what you mean, one more. Then we got actions.
And then we got actions, but actions usually go pretty fast, typically.
We can make those go fast.
Good evening, President Bennett. I'd like to say that. Dr. Salins, board members and executive team members. For the record, I am Dr. Marcia Sprangel, the Assistant Superintendent. So it gives me great pleasure to come before you tonight because we were tasked to take a look at some recommendations regarding our gender gap. I would start by saying that I had the perfect cue set because I had Ms. Smith as well as Ms. Passon come in and share some wonderful data about the gender gap. And we're closing and we're making strides to close that gap. So I'm excited about that. So thank you so much, Ms. Smith, and also Ms. Passon. So as I said We were tasked with coming up with some recommendations. I had the lovely opportunity to work closely with the curriculum and instruction team, as well as the CAC and SSIC. So I'm going to start with the first recommendation. The first recommendation is to go ahead and countywide implement the multi-tier systems of support. It is going to be a process because we actually had each of our school teams to do a self-assessment, and that self-assessment actually was developed by the American Institutes for Research. So all of our student service teams at all of our schools came together to complete that self-assessment. We were able to collect data from that self-assessment to determine the domains that would be needed. The domains, first we thought we'd do some level setting to make sure everybody would understand exactly what MTSS happens to be, so that we have a common understanding, so that when we see the forms and we speak the language, everybody understands it. There are 4 different domains that need to be addressed. The first domain happens to be monitoring tools. That's something that needs to be addressed. A monitoring process, okay? Cultural and linguistic responsiveness, and communication with and involvement of parents and families. Those are the domains that we need to focus in on, and we will tailor the professional learning to support those 4 domains. That's what will happen. So that will be the next step. It's not that we don't have MTSS in our district, but we need to strengthen it. That's what needs to happen. You may recall early on, back in, I want to say back in the spring of 2023, Dr. Salins actually had the regional educational laboratories of Mid-Atlantic do a report or to investigate where we were with the gender gap, and MTSS was one of the recommendations. So now we're planning to move forward with that and have a countywide implementation of MTSS. The second recommendation happens to be an advisory period at Kent Island High School. This semester currently, Kent Island High School is piloting a Wellness Wednesday. And on that Wellness Wednesday, they have their advisors actually facilitating sessions around the character strong, which if you are familiar with character education, you remember that character strong is for our high schoolers. So they're facilitating those lessons, and those lessons are happening, and it's focusing on social and emotional learning right now. Next year, we're planning to keep with the Wellness Wednesdays, but the other 4 days will be tailored to academic support and enrichment activities for students throughout at one period at one point during the day. But 4 days a week will be focused on the academics to meet the needs of all students, each and every student, and really tailor that. So that's where we are with that. And once we start that, we will have focus groups, as student focus groups, staff focus groups, surveys for staff and also students, and monitoring will occur as well in the classrooms to make sure that things are going well, adjustments will be made. So we just won't just get the feedback and not make adjustments. We'll get the feedback and make adjustments. And the way we feel about that, slow and steady wins the race, because we want it structured in a way to where it's manageable. Okay. I think I've said that. So skipping on to the third recommendation is increase the male protagonist book titles. So I've been working closely with Ms. Passon, and for this particular recommendation as well, she's currently working with her reading specialist to bring forth in April some male protagonist books. What we've discovered is that with our Hispanic Latino population, we don't have book titles. Also, with our multiracial students, male students, we don't have book titles. Our African American boys, we need to increase the book titles. So she will be presenting those book titles in April. So look for that to come. So there you have it, the start of our recommendations to close this gender gap between males and females. And it looks like we're well on our way based on the data that was presented this evening with iReady. We're already making some leeway. So happy to report this.
Thanks for this. I have a quick question. I'm excited about the protagonist books. I think that will be good. I mean, who doesn't want to read a book that's interesting to them, right?
Yes.
Or that they can see themselves in. But with the MTSS, it's going to be for male and female. So it's just the idea that by bringing everybody up is going to be closing that gap or offering that support?
It's giving everybody what they need.
Okay.
So I call that win, what I need.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it's whatever, you know what I mean, it is. And hopefully it does bring
Right.
everybody up and at the same time, reduce the gap.
Right.
That's the purpose, but it is definitely targeted and the iReady is really helpful with that too, because it really tells us exactly what the student needs. I mean, and it's like a diagnosis of, and here's the materials to support what they need. And then increasing those small groups is really a big key at the middle and high school level. We do a lot of small groups at the elementary level, and our elementary teachers are very comfortable with it. It's getting secondary teachers comfortable with the small group opportunities. And I wanted to clarify too that, you know, Ken Island High School is doing the pilot, but then once we see and can tweak it and figure out what really works, that will fold that out to the other high school as well, so at Queen Anne's County High School.
That was my question, you know, Paula and Ken Island, I can understand starting at one.
Yeah.
But when we do our books, they'll be offered at both schools.
It'll be offered at all schools, actually not just, all schools.
For the appropriate grade level.
For the appropriate grade levels, exactly right. But mostly looking and targeting that secondary schools for those book titles will be what Bridget will do. Mrs. Passon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for all your work on this.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thank
it very
you.
much. Okay.
Good stuff.
Yeah, did we want to take a break? That's next on the agenda. We want to keep pushing through? Okay. All right. So we had been presented with the HR report, so did.
I make a motion, we approve the human resource and substitute bus driver report as discussed earlier.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. And 802 has already been done, so now we have,
No, 803 was done.
no,
Yes, we approved the high school.
the overnight
Field
trip
trip.
was 802, was it not?
Correct.
03 is
And we
the
did
main.
that
Right. so it's
earlier.
803,
So
yeah.
now we're on 803.
Technical.
What about 802, the overnight trip for Ken Island High School band?
We did that
We
one.
did that already.
We did that
That's what I'm
early.
saying, we're on 803, is that correct?
County.
Yeah, it was
The
Queen
dance,
Anne's.
yeah.
It was Queen Anne's County High School.
Okay, gotcha. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Technical math.
Look, they're like, ready to go.
Ready to go.
They're gonna be like, here we go.
We have new buddies this time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, the money system.
Still the buddy system now.
There you go.
So good evening again, and tonight we're bringing to you technical math together. This is something that I've really talked with Mr. Tolley for a couple years about bringing this on as an option as a third math credit for students who are in their technical programs, phase 2. So what it does is it allows to actually open up a slot for students so that they're not required to fill in an extra math course, that part of their CTE learning is now wrapped around their mathematics concepts that they will be seeing, because it's the real life components that they're applying in their field. So we're requesting approval for this to be added to our program of study for the fall. Questions? Anything you wanted to add?
Well, no, and Amy's right. She did bring this to me, and we talked about it, you know, for a while, and finally met with all the teachers that this is going to apply to. And you see the list there: automotive, cosmetology, welding, carpentry, and masonry. And so it's basically just capturing the math that they already do in these programs and giving the students a credit for it. So it's only going to be the students that are in these programs that will get this technical math credit. So you can't enroll in technical math. You have to be enrolled in these courses in order to get it. And it's just like I said, it's just quantifying what the teachers are already doing and giving the students credit for it, so.
Teaching those.
Yeah, so it's a great idea, and I'm glad that Amy brought it to my attention. And like I said, I've sat down with the administration and the teachers to bring this to them, got their buy-in first. They are all for it, and so we're excited. It is a great opportunity for
Yeah,
students.
there's a lot of math in some of those programs.
Absolutely.
Besides measure.
And it allows the opportunity to have the joy areas of where they're like and they're passionate about, and now getting credit also for it in the math. And there's several counties across the state that have been doing this. So it's, we're not going in cold and blind in that sense. It just gives us the opportunity, particularly since students have to have that 4 years of math in their docket now for graduation.
President Bennett, I recommend that the Queen Anne's County Board of Ed approve the technical math course for the 2024-2025 high school program of study with no fiscal impact.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a great evening.
You too. So we are ready for Ms. Hickey. She was very patient. Oh, Mr. Pender. I guess she wasn't so patient. All right.
However, Mr. Pender was.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
I thought it was a Dr. Kibler show there for a while, but I was. Good evening, President Bennett, board members, Dr. Salins, executive team. For the record, I'm Sid Pender, Chief Operating Officer. I am here before you tonight to seek approval of Policy 240, which is the child nutrition programs. We have had that out for several reads. There have been no public comments to any of the information that was provided. Basically, this will replace the policy we had in 1993 and align us with the Healthy, Hungry, Free Kids Act.
Any questions? President Bennett, I recommend that Queen Anne's County Board of Education approve Policy 240, subject to final edits for format and style.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Kibler.
Come on down.
We should make this take a while just for Mr. Pender. I think we lost this. We're on the school calendar first, right? I have my things in order.
Yes, sorry.
No, I just wanted to make sure. Okay. So, here tonight to present to you the 3 calendar options that the School System Improvement Committee and the Citizens Advisory Council put together. As you know, you have a board policy that requests a committee be formed to put a calendar together and to present you all with 3 options. When I gave an update on the CAC and SSIC in the fall, you gave me permission to go straight ahead with taking the calendar options and going straight to the survey. That is what you see here tonight. The survey went to roughly 9,000 email addresses. I can't say for sure how many individuals there because myself that has kids in the system and as an employee, I would have gotten this twice. But I did put a condition on the survey so that nobody could take it twice, even that they got it from the same email address. It recognizes the devices and you can't do that. So we did get 1,700 responses. So it's a couple hundred more responses than we did last year. So happy with those results. So we have the 3 options. You'll see that overall in the top left-hand corner, calendar A, when we put all the categories of folks together, is the clear winner there for the public vote. And then everybody is divided into one of the 3 next categories that are there. So nobody is in 2 of the remaining graphs. So folks that are parents, guardians, and have a student or 2 in the system, they're in the top right, voted for calendar A. Individuals that are employees with no children in the system, the bottom left, you can see that they voted for calendar A as well. And then lastly, individuals that are both an employee and a parent guardian of a student in the system. They voted for calendar A as well. And so I'm happy to take questions about any of the calendars and what we put together, anything that's in the options. I will say, I just think it's kind of interesting. Calendar A is as close of a mirror to this calendar that we're living in right now, which is also a very similar mirror to the prior year's calendar as well. So it does seem like employees, the public, kind of likes the trend that we've been getting with the calendar. I don't know. We'll see if that continues next year. But I do start the committees, like Ms. Bennett and Mr. Smith could say, when we talk calendar first at the CAC meetings, with just saying it's option A because we just mirror it. And then the groups give me feedback, and that's how we build the other options.
They were very engaged, that's for sure. Yeah.
It's kind of late, and I want to joke that we should just pick C, because that's the lowest one on the list. And somebody would take that wrong, so.
All right.
Well, one
Ms.
thing I
Bent,
would
you
say-
get to come to the
I think
meeting
we
and
did
tell
it this
people.
year.
It's late.
We lost one snow day because we didn't have enough time to, I mean, I think you said it,
Right,
unless you get
yeah.
enough forward advance notice.
Right.
I think that should be clear
thought that was
to the
considered,
public of when we decide that if we don't have a snow day by this date, we're not going to lose Martin Luther King Day. If we don't have a snow day by this, we're not going to lose the, next one. And I think that needs to be set out so people understand what's
The
going on.
window.
Because people make
We-
plans for this
We
stuff.
did actually say that we would include that on the actual physical calendar that we send out, that we will do a window if we, and I don't even recall what you said, Dr. Kibler, to be.
So this was just my thoughts, and I'm happy to take your all's feedback. So if you notice on all the calendar options, one thing, we work out every detail for what's there for the semesters, the marking periods. One thing I don't do right away is if we adopted that calendar, when's all the reporting, working on the bottom key, because I frankly, I don't want to do that 3 times because I don't think it's that relevant. So what I'd like to do in the key, if it's all right, is say if we do not have a snow day before the winter holiday, then we would not petition the state to go on Martin Luther King Day.
Or
And
an
frankly, we
inclement
wouldn't have
weather day.
time.
Like we could literally be closed
And-
for
well,
football
if we
day or
shut down
something.
like for.
Right, for anything.
Even a hurricane or something.
Right, exactly, anything
Yeah.
prior to Christmas break.
And then we would do the same thing, probably the end of January, and then we'd be committed to go President's Day as well.
It gives people enough notice to.
Right.
And we also have to get permission from the state, even though they're approving, once you all approve this calendar, it gets submitted to the state for approval. If you want to open on one of those holidays, we have to have the State Board of Education approve that.
It's considered a waiver to the COMAR
Well,
regulation.
it would also give them time to react to that. If we don't give them enough time, they're not going to react
Right,
to it, then we're going to be
exactly.
in limbo.
Yeah, they have to have a board meeting in order
So
to
it's got to be at least,
approve the waiver, yeah.
yeah, makes sense.
So
Make a motion
Comments? Can we get a
to,
motion? There you go.
make a motion to adopt
A.
A, yeah, A.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. My glasses. Dr. Kibler.
Hey,
Nice
what do
to
you know?
join us.
What do you know? One thing I've sort of done is we've talked about a lot, getting us on track with the 4-year schedule of policy review. As you notice, we've had a bunch of policies coming up tonight for reads and votes. Tonight, what I'm asking for, based on the areas that are responsible for these 2 policies, that we would vote to rescind these 2 policies. The first, policy 610, the course fee policy, it's really just not in practice anymore. We aren't charging fees for students for our classes, and this was for supplies. The second policy is one of those, like Dr. Knoll alluded to earlier, that's from 1993, the school lunch program. This policy is really a duplicate policy. Its elements are covered in the policy you just voted for, 240. So really, just both of these policies are obsolete.
Any comments? Can I get a motion?
I suggest the Queen Anne's County Board of Ed rescind policy 610 and policy 245.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
One more thing. No,
Oh, that's funny. Okay, I assume, is anyone here for comment? Okay. Future meetings, we canceled our budget work session for February 14th. So the next session will be a budget/work session on February 21 at 5 PM. And then there will be another budget work session on February 28th at 5 PM. Okay? Any motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. See you next time.